Chapter 498, Ice Emperor City. Chapter 498, Ice Emperor City. Of course, Shi Yan knew that Bing Chong and Bing Wei were flying behind him, but he didn't care because he was too lazy to care. He was flying over the long range of the snow mountains in the bitter cold land at a moderate speed. 3 days later, he finally left the snow-capped mountains behind, and a majestic, ice rock city appeared in front of his eyes. That city was built of rigid ice, just like a ghost hatchet or the work of God. It looked majestically magnificent. Under the sunlight, the whole city was sparkling with a dazzling icy light, as if it were a dreamy, crystal city that overwhelmed people. Ice Emperor City, one of the 7 cities of the Fighting Union. As he got closer to the Ice Emperor City, he found that the number of warriors operating around was increasing. There were many Nirvana Realm and Sky Realm warriors walking outside the city. They were riding on the snow beasts or flying devices made of ice, which had profound chi crystals or demon crystals inlaid to provide energy. Sure, Yen opened his soul consciousness to sense when he was still outside the city. He found a strange cold chi inside the wall of the city, creating a cold air shield which kept the Ice Emperor City cold. Immense cold chi wandered in the air without dispersing. Such a big city like this was surrounded by the cold air barrier that kept the temperature inside the city no higher than the snow mountain. Warriors who didn't cultivate ice-cold technique would find it quite uncomfortable on entering the Ice Emperor City, as they couldn't adapt well to the weather. Warriors specialized in fire class would have the most uncomfortable experience visiting the Ice Emperor City. If they stayed there for a long time, their cultivation base wouldn't thrive, and they wouldn't be able to break through their realms. As the 2 sisters saw the Ice Emperor City, they breathed out in relief, loosening their tense nerves. They exchanged looks, then sped up their low pace. Soon they came to Shi Yan. Bing Chong frowned while looking at him. "We're about to enter the city. If you don't mind, we will host you and take you to see the attractions in the city. What do you say?" "No need. I'm going to cross this city. I won't stay for long." Sure, Yen denied her offer with a desolate visage. He nodded at her and then accelerated towards the city's gate. He doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. Bing Wei harumphed, throwing a glance at his back while panting in rage. "You never talk much to strangers. This guy isn't tactful, not giving us face at all. I think such a freak like him will hardly live in peace in our divine great land, even if he has a tremendous, strange strength. This man isn't ordinary." Bing Chong's face was solemn, as light flared from her eyes. "If he really comes from the endless sea, we shouldn't look down on him. The opening time of dark, magnetic noxious mist passed 1 year ago. You know, after the opening time gets over, that place will become 5 times more dangerous. Let alone the fact that he's just a Sky Realm warrior. Even a Spirit Realm warrior can't get out intact if he isn't familiar with the situation in the dark, magnetic, noxious mist. Moreover, he has the devouring gold silkworm of the Ning family. I think you've heard that Ning Zhe and his group couldn't get out alive from the dark, magnetic, noxious mist, even though they were strong. And now that guy has the devouring gold silkworm. I think you know what it means." Hearing her sister say so, Bing Wei was a bit surprised. But his realm isn't so high. How could he cross the closing, dark, magnetic, noxious mist and take the devouring gold silkworm of the Ning family? "That's why I said this guy's mysterious." Bing Chong frowned and snorted. "Do you really think that I invited him because I appreciated his deed of saving us? I just wanted to probe and see who this man is." "Ah," Bing Wei got it and was slightly startled. "Too bad he didn't care about us at all." "Your scheme was wasted, sister." "Oh, yeah, forget him. We should get into the city first, and then tell Mother about the previous experience." After that, Bing Chong and her sister Bing Wei went into the city. The guards at the gate greeted them with respectful faces. Handing them a medium-quality chi crystal, Shi Yan got his entry to the city. Observing the ice structures along the way, he thought he was lost in a dreamy crystal kingdom. He really liked the beautiful scenes here. Sure, Yen took a breath of cold air, strolling on the road. His eyes sparkled while he was observing the situation in the Ice Emperor City. There were many warriors in the Ice Emperor City, and most of them were cultivating techniques with cold attributes. He could recognize this from the features of their bodies and their aura. The warriors in the city had different realms: Disaster Realm, Earth Realm, Nirvana Realm, and Sky Realm. They were everywhere. Sometimes Shiryen could even sense hidden cold aura in some corners. This aura felt was like it was merged with the cold air of the city. They should be spirit realm warriors. Warriors at this realm could blend themselves together with nature, as their aura would be the same as the surrounding ambience. With just a thought, they could stir a change in heaven and earth. In this realm, they were good at using the powers of nature. In their sea of consciousness, they even could project everything happening around them, as if they had the eyes of God. In Ice Emperor City, there were shops selling stuff to warriors, including cultivating materials, essence chi jade, spirit herbs or fruits, many kinds of hard metals, and different types of pellets that could draw cold air. Besides the shops, Ice Emperor City had many strange training courts. Some courts had much higher gravity levels than normal, while the others had thick ice chambers, flaming rooms, or walls decorated with martial technique scriptures. These training courts were built with special methods to meet the needs of warriors who cultivated special techniques. For instance, the ice chambers always maintained a low temperature for warriors with ice class cultivation. They would choose a suitable place and practice their cold attribute techniques. This environment would help them condense the pure cold chi, using the cold air as their big support. The gravity courts divided into different grades. Some had the 10 times greater gravity, while the others had 20 times or even 100 times greater level. When warrior cultivated in this sort of a training court under the extreme gravity, their body's endurance capacity would be enhanced dozens of times. The more load they could bear, the more arduous it was to train in this court, and the bigger benefit they could harvest in the end. The number of the training courts was more than the number of the shops here. Of course, if they wanted to have a slot to cultivate there, they had to pay with essence chi crystals. After taking one round around the city, he found that they had a trihedral ice crystal in front of the main gate. This was the symbol of the Ice Emperor City. This symbol indicated that all training courts belonged to the Ice Emperor City, part of properties of the city master. When Shiryen was still in the quiet cloud and the endless sea, these two gathering points didn't lack trading places for warriors, but it was rare to see the facilities like what he was observing in Ice Emperor City, with different attributes training courts for warriors. After taking a tour around the city, Shiryen felt quite surprised. Then, Shiryen came to a place with the same symbol of the city master's properties. It was a heavy gravity training yard. Looking at the chambers with a sharp, pointy shape, he suddenly wanted to try the gravity training court. Since his petrification martial spirit had mutated, the weight of his body had increased sharply. He seldom paid attention to the change of the petrification martial spirit, as he didn't train it much. In his mind, this special martial spirit had reached its peak already, and it should be tough to have another breakthrough. However, when he knew that these chambers had 10 or even dozens of times heavier gravity setting, he suddenly had a thought. Perhaps this kind of gravitational chamber could help test the strange situation of his body. Are you a warrior from outside? You look strange, eh? Want to cultivate in the gravitational chambers? When he got through the door, he saw a hefty, dark-skinned man who was around 2 meters tall. That man was standing in front of a 30x gravitational room. The stranger smiled at him and asked amicably. This burly man had the Nirvana Realm cultivation base. His look was rough, with a double-bladed silver axe that was around 3 meters large on his back. However, this man had a simple-minded appearance. Standing next to him was a female warrior around 30 years old. also having the Nirvana realm cultivation base. She had a wheatish skin tone and wore silver leather armor. This woman was about 8 meters tall. Her face was not pretty, however. She had a beautiful build with no fat on her tummy. She was long-limbed and with a hot body. It seemed that these two came here to whet their cultivation. An imposing aura expanded from them. They obviously had a life full of bloody battles. Yeah, I just came to the Ice Emperor City, so I want to practice a bit in the gravitational chamber. Sure, Yen nodded to the two of them, his manners neither cold nor friendly. The gravitational chambers divided into 10 big courts. Each court was around 1,000 square meters in size. From left to right, there's a pattern of 1 to 10 mountains carved on the doors of the rooms, respectively. The leftmost gravitational room had a small mountain carved on the door. This meant that when warriors entered this place, it would be like they were carrying a small mountain on their back when they had to endure the gravity that was 10 times greater. The rightmost door had 10 small mountains, which meant they would experience the load equal to 10 mountains on their shoulders in that room. Warriors with low realms could hardly breathe well in that room. In severe cases, the gravity would surely break their thigh bones. A warrior of the Ice Emperor City guarded at the entrance of each chamber to collect the chi crystals and classify the warriors' levels. For example, they wouldn't allow the warriors under Disaster Realm to enter the room with 70 or 80 times heavier gravity. Even if they gave them many crystals, they would still shoo those warriors away. At most, the Disaster Realm warriors could only cultivate arduously in the 60x gravitational room. This was their upper limit. If they tried the 70x gravitational room, not long afterward, even their lives would be in danger. As the owner had considered their well-being, these facilities had clear rules about it. Chapter 499, Surpass the Limit. Chapter 499, Surpass the Limit. You have the Sky Realm cultivation base. According to our rules, you can whet your practice in the chambers where the gravity is 70 or 80 times greater. These degrees of gravity suit you the best. The muscular man smiled amicably, flashing his white teeth. My name's Boss Seating. I'm going to the 70x gravitational room, but I only am in the Nirvana realm. It should be a little bit arduous. Later, when you come in, can you please keep an eye on me? I'll pay you. How about 10 crystals of the high-quality essence chi? Challenging oneself in the gravitational field with high multiple gravitational chamber would draw a certain degree of danger. Some even got unconscious under the high pressure. Since the chambers here were big and divided into many smaller rooms, if no one found them unconscious, they could die. Also, in the same room, if someone hated one and hit them when they were unconscious, their death would come even faster. The Ice Emperor City was responsible for providing the training courts only. Before the warriors got in, they would remind them the rules and the restraint simply. After the warriors got in the gravitational room, they wouldn't care anymore. If something bad happened there, they had no alternatives. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to the 70x gravitational room. Shi Yen shook his head, passing Ba Si Ting to the room which had 20 times greater gravity. He handed 2 medium-quality crystals, and then got in immediately. Ba Si Ting and the hot body woman were dumbstruck on looking at him enter the 20x gravitational room, their face stunned. Such a freak. He obviously has the Sky Realm cultivation base, but he wants to enter that 20x room? Such a waste of time. Ba shook his head, not understanding the young man's action. He thought that with that man's cultivation realm, he could enter the room of at least 70 times greater gravity. Yeah, he's strange. Hard to understand him, though. Ba Si Ting also wore a surprised look. Forget it. We'll watch over each other. Later, when you cultivate, I will take care of you. Ba mused and said, When you don't feel well, just stop. We'll take turns to train. It should be no problem. Yeah, we can do that. Ba Si Ting didn't want to waste time. The two of them identified the room, then handed the fee. entering the room that had 70 times the gravity. The 20 times gravity room was almost empty. The 1,000 square meter ice room had many giant icicles. All kinds of stone tables and steel iron discs were there to train warriors' power. There were many small holes in the walls of the room, which contained fresh water for the warriors to use. This degree of gravitational chambers was suitable for nascent realm and human realm warriors to train their powers. Perhaps even the second sky and the third sky of human realm warriors disdained this place. However, today it welcomed a second sky of sky realm warrior. Right after he entered the room, Shi Yan, with his sky realm cultivation base, under the circumstances that he didn't urge his profound qi, was struck and even found it hard to walk. The gravity in this room was just 20 times greater, but he felt like he had an extremely massive mountain put on his shoulders. Each step was really hard to take naturally. His body was 100 times heavier than a normal person originally. After his petrification, martial spirit had mutated. Besides the intensity of his body that leaped up massively, the most obvious feature was that he became incredibly heavy. He believed that even a steel or iron block with the same volume as him couldn't be as heavy as he was now. Because he understood his body's situation well, he didn't choose the 70x gravitational chamber. Otherwise, he would be pushed to the ground with the extreme pressure there. Without the power of the profound qi, Shi Yan was sauntering in the room with only the strange energy inside his flesh and tendons. He drenched his whole body with sweat after walking for just 100 meters. Under the 20 times greater pressure, at each step he took, the fibers of his muscles enlivened, while the strange power in his muscle fibers was like many small energy strings that naked eyes couldn't see operating. They generated small beams of electric current, getting absorbed in his entire body from the muscles. To Shi Yan, dealing with this 20x gravitational room was much more strenuous than fighting a sky realm warrior. Due to his tremendous weight, compared to the ordinary people, it was tough for him to adapt to this level of the gravitational chamber. Even the human realm warriors could feel comfortable training in this room, but to him, it was like a giant mountain put on his shoulder. If he didn't have the intimidating power in his flesh, he wouldn't even be able to walk. Under these circumstances, every time he walked, the muscles in his legs bulged. This was the situation where he didn't use the profound qi, but only his energy from the flesh body. The reason why he did that was to activate the divine power residing in his muscles. Inside the gravitational room, Shi Yan was soaking in his sweat while walking around the room. His face reddened as if he were fighting strenuously with an invisible opponent. Phew, phew. Gasping for his breath, Shi Yan sat down at a round table. His eyes were swollen and reddened, looking intimidating. After 1 hour of training, he felt exhausted and couldn't bear it anymore. A part of the mysterious power hidden inside his muscles had been drained quickly. In just a short time, he could feel that this strange power had been used by 1/3. It was tougher than fighting with a sky realm warrior, but still, he didn't plan to urge his profound qi. He needed to use the advantage of this gravitational room to wet his flesh body, urging the strange power in his muscles and seeking a way to supplement or even make it thrive faster. A long time ago, he found that his muscles could store a part of that mysterious power. Different from the profound qi or the negative energy, it was a fierce, turbulent brute force. Once he urged it during a fight, it could immediately enhance the power of his attacks, rocketing up his powers. Part of the reason why he could defeat enemies at higher realms was this brutal force in his muscles. Besides the rampage, he could urge from negative energies. As the negative energy was increasing along with the absorption of the profound qi, they would gradually grow together. He had found this feature a long time ago. However, a part of the mysterious energy in his muscles hadn't been supplemented or grown more after his petrification martial spirit had completed its mutation. If he could solve this problem, he could supplement the consumed amount of the mysterious energy in his muscles, or even help it thrive continually. He could have a way to steady his increasing powers this way. Originally, he had usually searched for a way to break through this bottleneck. However, he made no progress. This time, as he had arrived at the Ice Emperor City and seen the amazing training court, he suddenly had a good premonition. When his weight had rocketed 100 times heavier, it was much more strenuous for him to deal with the gravity than normal people. Before he had arrived at the Grace mainland, he was an extreme madman who had interest in extreme activities. After he entered this world, although he had been through so much stuff, this nature of his had never changed. He loved challenges, risks, and arduous training. After taking a short break, he got up again and frowned, with his face slightly fierce. He started to walk around the gravitational room. After 2 hours, the mysterious, strange energy in his muscles had been consumed completely. He didn't stop because of that, and continued walking with great effort in the room. At this moment, without the support of the mysterious energy, his body started to shake. This was way beyond his endurance. However, Yan wasn't frightened, but quite happy. His face was covered with sweat, his eyes red, and his face fierce. But he suddenly burst out laughing in the room. Only if he could surmount the extreme limit, his power could thrive more. This was like a weightlifting athlete. Only if he could lift the hefty weight could he push his muscles to the extreme, which would damage his muscles. When these muscles got normal and repaired again, they would get bigger. There were different situations, but the same principles. At the moment, his muscles were shaking, and he recognized the tough question that troubled him a lot perhaps could be solved now. He drew a heavy stone. It was unknown what material the stone was. His body was shaking as he was risking his strength to squeeze off the endurance limit of his flesh body. Sure, Yen didn't use a beam of profound chi or borrow any external force. He purely stood on the intrinsic potential of his fleshy body, pliable and insistent. Limit, limit, you can't continue, otherwise you'll die. A voice screamed crazily in his head, asking him to stop immediately. It didn't allow him to risk his life like that. He shut both his ears and eyes. Gritting his teeth under the formidable pressure, he continued. Puff! A tendon in his left leg broke under this life-threatening pressure. So painful. The broken tendon made his leg shiver. The tearing pain struck his nerves, spreading into his sea of consciousness. But Yen still insisted. Come on. Puff, puff, puff. His tendons were getting stressed too much and ruptured. His legs went soft as they couldn't endure anymore. He fell on the ground. Unbearable fatigue and pain flooded, invading him. The extreme limit. Yen fainted at the spot. Inside the room of 20x gravity, Yen's body was cracked. Blood covered him as he was lying in a blood puddle. His body got wounded badly. A white flame flew out in silence from the blood vein ring. Waves of cold, white mist expanded, sealing the area around him in just a blink. This gravitational chamber suddenly became the coldest place in the Ice Emperor City. The City Master Palace. A woman was cultivating her cold class technique, bringing her spirit, chi, and soul into the cold air moving around the city. All of a sudden, she opened her eyes. The ice-cold flame. The woman shouted, then flew out of the city master's palace without any hesitation. She turned into an ice light, shooting towards Yan's location. At the same time, in some corners of the Ice Emperor City, some spirit realm warriors at a certain level could feel the aura of the ice-cold flame, getting out from their training courts and flying towards the position at all cost. Chapter 500, Ice, Chill, Cold, and Frost. Chapter 500, Ice, Chill, Cold, and Frost. To warriors cultivating cold technique, the ice-cold flame was one of the most precious treasures in the world. If the warriors cultivating this method could integrate the ice-cold flame into their bodies, the marvelous benefit could hardly be described with words. No matter it was their realm or the powers of their techniques, all were enhanced significantly. In the same way, the warriors cultivating cold technique were more sensitive to the cold chi released by the ice-cold flame. The spirit realm warriors had an extremely delicate sense of changes in the heaven and earth, and the cold class warriors understood deeply about the cold energies. Therefore, after the ice-cold flame revealed itself in the Ice Emperor city, some spirit realm warriors almost caught its aura right away. These warriors couldn't restrain the excitement in their hearts for the magic spirit, living beings in the legends like the ice-cold flame, as they put forth everything to get to the place first. The master of the Ice Emperor city had 4 adopted daughters. She used ice, chill, cold, and frost to name them. After she failed to enter the true god realm, she handed the ruling role to Bing Ching Tong. So now, Bing Ching Tong was the current master of the Ice Emperor city. Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu became the 3 grand elders of the Ice Emperor city. Together with Bing Ching Tong, they ruled the Ice Emperor city as the most powerful trinity of the Ice Emperor city. Bing Ching Tong, Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu followed the tradition of the Ice Emperor city to adopt some daughters with the innate endowment. Bing Chang and Bing Wei were the adoptive daughters of Bing Ching Tong. When the ruling position of the city was to be handed over to the next generation, they would have to compete with daughters of Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu. Bing Ching Tong, Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu all had the spirit realm cultivation base, in which Bing Ching Tong and Han Shui were at the second sky, while Lung Danqing and Shuang Yuzhu were 1 level lower, at the first sky of spirit realm. After they sensed the ice-cold flames aura in the Ice Emperor city, the 4 most powerful women of the Ice Emperor city didn't hesitate at all, flying in Shi Yan's direction with their max speed. Shortly, Bing Ching Tong appeared in the training court. Warriors of the Ice Emperor city, watching over the gravitational rooms, were leisurely discussing the news of the city in front of the chambers. As they saw Bing Ching Tong, they were startled, bending down to greet her. Bing Ching Tong swayed her snow-white hand, didn't say anything, and got into the 20x gravity room where Shi Yan was lying. Inside the room, the shattered wounds on Shi Yan's body had been healed. The magical resiliency of his immortal martial spirit had healed half of his broken tendons and veins. As long as he had time, it would take around 10 minutes more to restore all of his ruptured tendons and veins, which would leave no side effects to him. His simple blue warrior clothing was dyed with red blood. Shi Yan was still unconscious and not yet awakened. The ice-cold flame turned into a white flame, floating behind Shi Yan like snowflakes. A pair of beautiful eyes that could move people's hearts were mounted on Bing Ching Tong's painting-like face, like a pair of shining stars. She was wearing a white, royal dress, with small jade beads hanging on the hem. The cold and arrogant aura of a ruler expanded from her graceful body. Her slender willow leaf eyebrows slightly frowned, raking over Shi Yan. Then, her eyes shifted to the ice-cold flame and brightened. Her red lips shivered as she was too excited. It was the ice-cold flame indeed. At first glance, she could confirm that the white flame bobbing next to Shi Yan was the most precious treasure that the cold class warriors always yearned for. If she could get this strange treasure, her competence would leap up to another level in just a blink of an eye. The bottleneck she had faced for quite a long time should be broken through too. Whiz, whiz, whiz. 3 strange sounds echoed at the same time as 3 beams of light appeared. Immediately in this 20x gravity room, there were 3 more beautiful women with mesmerizing appearance that could be seen. They all had the cold aura, wearing white or silvery dresses covering their beautiful bodies. Their manners were noble, and their realms weren't low either. After the 3 beautiful women appeared, they didn't bother to give Shi Yan a look as they fixed their eyes on the ice-cold flame. Their eyes were sparkling excitedly as if they were beholding the most beautiful gem in the world. Their bodies were fixed, unable to move. It's the ice-cold flame, the ice-cold heaven flame in legends. Han Shui's voice trembled. Her delicate body shook as she couldn't help but step forward, extending her left arm. A snow, frost-cold grass, spiritual herb with dense cold attribute emerged in her palm. The snow, frost, cold grass released a thick cold air, swaying and overflowing the place with its intoxicating fragrance. Suddenly, it flew toward the ice-cold flame. The snow, frost, cold grass was a kind of spiritual herb with cold attributes. This thing was a luxury item which had a special effect on the ice-cold flame, as it could enhance the flame's intelligence. At first move, Han Shui had offered the precious snow, frost, cold grass in an attempt to please the ice-cold flame and make it consider her as its master. Creatures with intelligence would naturally have the intention to get close to the ones who offered them goodwill. They could even make the ones their masters. However, it didn't apply to the ice-cold flame. When the snow, frost, cold grass approached it, the ice-cold flame didn't react, just floating next to Shurian. It didn't have the intention to take the grass. Oh! Han Shui let out a slight scream. She beamed a smile that charmed people's hearts. Her aura was as cold as ice, but this smile appeared to be the acme of her beauty and deportment. Boy, you don't like this snow, frost, cold grass? Don't worry, I have some other spiritual herbs and stuff of the cold class which are very suitable for you. If you're willing to follow me, I'll give you it all. How does it sound? The ice-cold flame was aloof. Sister, don't waste your mind on it. It has a master already. Bing Ching Tong said coldly. Don't you see that it revealed itself because it wanted to protect the unconscious guy over there? This spiritual being has intellect. It won't get close to you because of your favor. I know it has a master. Han Shui smiled wickedly as murderous intention flared up from her eyes. She looked at Shi Yan. Kill him. It has no master then, right? How simple this option is. Why do you need to calculate more? You came here first. Are you going to wait for its master to wake up and negotiate with him? Dejia, since when you've become that kind. Lung Danqing was surprised, showing her smiling but not actually smiling face. She mocked, throwing a glance at Bing Ching Tong. This woman had a pair of phoenix eyes with deep, dark, and cold aura. Her appearance was so extraordinary that it could move people's mind, but it gave people a gloomy feeling as well. Dejia has something worrying her. Shuang Yuzhu was closer to Bing Ching Tong, as she spoke up to give way to the other. Dejia, this young man has only the Sky Realm cultivation base. He seems to be meeting a bottleneck in this gravitational training court. Do you see anything improper? This is the 20x gravity room, said Bing Ching Tong with a soft voice. What? Han Shui was shocked, burst out laughing. A Sky Realm warrior fainted in the 20x gravity room? This is silly but lovely, though. Ha! I don't know what luck he had to cultivate to the Sky Realm. He also has the ice-cold flame. Interesting indeed. Each heaven flame has its own consciousness. They will choose an extraordinary company. Regarding making the judgment, the heaven flames are more accurate than us. Anyway, a good company with strong potential and innate endowment is crucial for their growth in hundreds or even thousands of years. Every kind of heaven flames very cautious with this. Bing Ching Tong's face was solemn. The ice-cold flame isn't dumb. The one it has chosen should have something special. This man has the Sky Realm cultivation base, but he chose to cultivate in the 20 times greater gravity. Don't you see it's weird? Do you really think that he's stupid or what? Well, whether he's really stupid or not, he's just Sky Realm warrior. Is he worth your worry? Han Shui disdained with a cold smile. Dejia, the higher your position is, the more chickened you have become. Why is that? The chance of once in a blue moon is right in front of you. Will you let it slip away like that? I'm not going to take action on him. Bing Ching Tong mused and then took one step backward, speaking with her cold tone. If you want to do anything, my advice is to wait for him to wake up. Let's observe first to see if anything is abnormal. You're too cautious. Han Shui chuckled coldly. You do worry too much. He's just a sky realm warrior. No wonder why our Ice Emperor City is still the lowest ranked city among the 7 cities of the Fighting Union. Sai, don't blame my mouth. It's not okay, you know. You failed our adoptive mother's wishes. You really just want to stand and stare? Worried Xuan Yuzhu. Fourth sister, don't concern yourself with it. We will just watch. Bing Ching Tong said softly, as a strange light sparkled in her beautiful eyes. Xuan Yuzhu was stunned. Later on, she quieted down and nodded, not saying anything further. She knew Bing Ching Tong wasn't an unwise leader. Whenever her pretty eyes sparkled with this strange light, it meant she had found something and had other perfect plans for the matter. Third sister, you join hands with me. We're going to tame the ice-cold flame together. Han Shui looked at Lung Danqing. I'll follow you, Lung Danqing smiled. The 2 pretty women exchanged looks and then stepped towards the ice-cold flame with caution. The powers of their bodies started to gather. However, at this moment, Shi Yan's brows convulsed. This meant he was about to wake up. The ice-cold flame suddenly released a pure cold air, pouring into Shi Yan and directly entering deep inside his sea of consciousness. Shi Yan was still unconscious. With the urge of this cold current, he jolted up, looking at the beautiful ladies walking towards him with a cold, brutish face. Chapter 501. A Tetrad Together to Compute Perfection. Chapter 501. A Tetrad Together to Compute Perfection. After he woke up, Shi Yan found that his tendons and veins had been restored under the effect of the immortal martial spirit. His wounds had been healed by 70% to 80%. Although he had drained almost all of the strange power inside his muscles in the gravitational yard, numerous fibers of his muscles had something changed after this consumption. Each fiber seemed to have enlarged and could store more mysterious energy. As long as he could absorb the essence qi in his next battles through the mysterious filtering, if nothing went wrong, he could regain the brute force in his muscles. Moreover, it should increase stably. This showed the fact that he had achieved his desired goal, training in the gravitational room. The most important thing was he finally knew the method to grow the power of his muscles steadily. It was to use the gravitational chamber and the exhausted consumption, breaking then rebuilding. Sure, Yan opened his eyes and slowly got up from the ground. He then observed the 4 beautiful women standing around him for a while, then understood the situation. Cold aura emitted from the 4 of them. Apparently, they were all cultivating cold attribute techniques. The 4 women with their cold auras had almost the same realm. If nothing was to be unexpected, they should have learned from the same master. The 2 beautiful women strolling towards him didn't look friendly. Cold air gathered and condensed around their pure white hands, which looked like ice snakes flicking out their tongues. The 20x gravity room almost didn't affect the spirit realm warriors. 2 second sky of spirit realm warriors and 2 first sky of spirit realm warriors were the peak of the Ice Emperor City. As it was the weakest city among the 7 cities of the Fighting Union, it was incredibly tremendous that they could reach such high realms. In the Endless Sea, among the big 15 forces besides the Chao family, the Martial Spirit Palace, and the Yang family, none of them had warriors at this level. What do you want? Coldly looking at Han Shui and Lung Danqing, Shi Yan wasn't afraid at all. He chuckled and then deliberately threw a glance at the ice-cold flame. This. Han Shui and Lung Danqing smiled and nodded, not denying at all. Little brother, does that ice-cold flame belong to you? Han Shui smiled, hiding her deep cold appearance. Shall we negotiate a bit here? Ah. Sure, Yen didn't hurry. He took off the blood-stained clothing on his body and changed to another clean, blue suit right in front of the four beautiful women. Shoot, please. While he was changing, the hefty, proportional body of his was revealed. Each of his muscles seemed to be built from reinforced concrete, giving people a feeling of full energy and intimidation. The four women had their eyes brightened as they praised his build secretly in their hearts. This kid had a good build. It could even be commended as perfect. Lung Danqing's phoenix eyes flashed a light of surprise as she smiled. Hey, little brother, good build. Do you want to visit my palace for a while? Haha, I have many beauties there. Perhaps you could have some fun with them. This was naked enticement. I'm not interested in normal women. Shi Yan threw them dissolute look with deep meaning, eyeing the mature, exquisite body of Lung Danqing. He wore a contemplating smile. I like the kind of mature, pretty women like you. If you agree to welcome me to your bed, I'll go there. I'm not interested in pure, innocent little girls. Lung Danqing smiled breezily, nodded, and talked to him softly. Okay, shall we go? Sister also likes young men with potential and big guts like you. We'll go and drink. How does it sound? Ha ha! Shi Yan cracked a smile, then shifted his look to Han Shui. I wonder what your negotiation would be about. How about you giving me the ice-cold flame? Han Shui twinkled. She seemed to find Shi Yan a bit interesting. It was obvious that he only had the Sky Realm cultivation base, but didn't show fear facing four Spirit Realm warriors. He was talking to her as if he weren't afraid of death. She didn't know that in the Endless Sea, Shi Yan had confronted the third sky of Spirit Realm warriors like Nu Lang, Bo Sun, and Qi Yan. He was soon immune to this level of strong warriors. At this moment, he didn't even have a trace of fear. Give it to you. Shi Yan burst out laughing. What do I get for it? The ice-cold flame suddenly flashed as a cold air was released from it. The flame could understand their conversation. Apparently, it was a little bit angry seeing Shi Yan using it to amuse himself. This was how it expressed its anger. Sure, Yan scented a strand of his soul conscious to calm down the flame, but he still smiled at Han Shui. What do you want? Han Shui's laughter was more cheerful. She was covering her mouth, constantly giggling. Her eyes twinkled, looking extremely seducing. Rare treasures, martial techniques, pellets, women. You can choose what you want among these four things. As long as you give me the ice-cold flame, anything can be negotiated. In the Ice Emperor city, almost every warrior knew them. However, when the Sky Realm warriors saw them, they acted like they were facing snakes or beasts, only wishing that they could flee faster. But now, she was talking to a daring brat like this. Han Shui suddenly felt interested in him and wanted to play with him for a while. I want you, Shi Yan said seriously. Me? Han Shui's laughter became more cheerful. You've just wanted to drink with my third sister, and now you say you want me. Big taste, boy, big taste. Anyway, can you bear it? Haha, little brother, you're young and strong, right? Well, 1, it's too little. 2, it's reluctant, you know. 3, it's okay. And 4 is perfect. Sure, Yan didn't cease his laughter, his naked gazing at Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu. Ha ha. Han Shui was laughing until she had to hunker down. Then, she turned to look at Bing Qing Tong and Shi Yan, her face shining. Dejia, fourth sister, this young man is into you too. So, do you like him? If you aren't afraid, we 4 will serve him together. Is that okay? It's okay with me. And I'm sure our third sister would love that too. How about you two? Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu looked at Shi Yan with a cold, disdaining face. Apparently, their styles weren't like Han Shui's and Lung Danqing's. They weren't interested in playing with Han Shui either. Second sister, third sister, you guys should calm down and think about it. As Sky Realm warriors, talking disrespectfully with the two spirit realm warriors. He's afraid of nothing. What does it mean, you tell me? Bing Ching Tong frowned and said in a serious manner, basically, he isn't wary of you guys at all. Having heard that, the smile on Han Shui's and Lung Danqing's faces ceased, as their faces stiffened. They weren't silly. After probing for a while, they could sense something abnormal. It was obvious that Shi Yan had just arrived at the Ice Emperor City. He was a foreigner, but in someone else's territory, he had shown that he had the ice-cold flame. Under their attentive watch, like tigresses watching their prey, his performance was calm. He even dared to joke with them. If he weren't a mental patient, he should have absolute confidence. The ice-cold flame is a heaven flame in cold class. To the warriors who cultivate ice-cold techniques like us, it's the most desired treasure. Bing Ching Tong mused, then decided to open her heart to him. I don't want to use force to snatch it from you. I guess you have some support that gives you confidence. However, you're in the Ice Emperor City, yet you reveal the ice-cold flame. We've sensed it. Having such a good chance, we can't let you go free. Pausing for a while, Bing Ching Tong took a deep breath and said with her cold voice, Say it. What do you want? As long as we can offer it to you, we won't let you down. Djia, you do want, Han Shui discolored, her voice hoarse. Do you really want to exchange equally with him? These are my manners, Bing Ching Tong nodded. Just a sky realm warrior. Even if he has some backup, what can he do? Lung Danqing snorted, showing her impatience. If you don't dare, I'll give it a shot. Harumph. After our adoptive mother passed away, you guys are always cautious about trivial things. No one's determined enough. If we continue this way, our Ice Emperor City will be ranked the worst among the 7 cities in the Fighting Union forever. Then Lung Danqing changed her tone, as her smile completely faded away. She rolled at Shi and then mocked. Your Jiejia's coming to play with you. Don't you want to taste me? I'll fulfill your wish. All right, Shi Yan shrugged, his face calm and natural. Lung Danqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a divine light. She lightly touched the ground with her left foot as hundreds of cold currents drilled into the ground. Crack, crack. The stone beside her and Shi Yan in the gravitational room echoed the cracking sound. Hundreds of cold currents were moving underground like worms, then suddenly burst out like toxic dragons, attempting to subdue Shi Yan. Bing Ching Tong, Han Shui, and Xuanyu Zhu had their beautiful eyes brightened, looking attentively at Shi Yan. The 3 of them wanted to see what backup Shi Yan had to say such disrespectful words to them. Sizzle, sizzle. Lung Danqing's hundreds of cold currents shot out from the ground. But as soon as they emerged, they got covered by clusters of flame. In just a blink, hundreds of cold currents had been burnt into white smoke. Her cold energy vanished into thin air, and none of the currents could get into Shi Yan's body. Inside the cold currents was Lung Danqing's pure essence QI. If the ice-cold flame had taken action, it could only have confined the cold air and couldn't have destroyed her essence qi. But the earth flame was different. The scorching flame was the nemesis of the cold air. It had burnt down hundreds of the cold currents, right when the flame appeared. There's another type of heaven flame. Lung Danqing's beautiful face discolored, screaming in fear. Bing Ching Tong, Han Shui, and Xuanyu Zhu also paled. Their tender bodies shivered as an inconceivable fright flashed in their pretty eyes. Chapter 502, Showing Goodwill. Chapter 502, Showing Goodwill. According to common sense, each kind of heaven flame acknowledged only one master. It was rare that a warrior could have 2 different types of heaven flame. The warrior who wanted to fuse with a heaven flame had the restriction in his soul and body. Once he could fuse with the heaven flame, his power would skyrocket massively. Moreover, he could gain the special features of the heaven flame. However, It was difficult for heaven flames to fuse with each other. The ice-cold flame was an icy cold, chilling to the bone flame, while the earth flame was a blazing flame. They were totally opposite in nature. It was almost impossible to combine them, as it was naturally repelling. That was why the four were frightened on knowing Shi Yan also had the earth flame on his body. The one who could keep two opposite heaven flames on his body should be an earth-shaking genius. Otherwise, it was impossible. The earth flame suddenly showed itself, which subdued Bing Qing Tong and Han Shui completely, oppressing their calculation. At this moment, Bing Qing Tong, Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Xuan Yuzhu didn't dare to look down on Shi Yan anymore, even if he only had the sky realm cultivation base. The heaven flames weren't dumb. In some aspects, they were much smarter than human beings. If Shi Yan didn't have anything special, why would these opposite flames make him their master? Of course, they didn't know the real relationship between the earth flame, the ice-cold flame, and Shi Yan. When treating the two heaven flames, Shi Yan wasn't tyrannically overbearing to occupy them. On the contrary, he had put his mind in the relationship, using his good friendship and close concern to get their approval. He didn't consider them his slave to squeeze off their energy, but helped them grow with his ability. It was also the reason why the ice-cold flame and the earth flame didn't leave him even though they had had the chance. They all chose to stay with him, thriving their powers together with his experience and growth. This was a deep acknowledgement. As soon as the earth flame appeared, it had released hundreds of wisps of flame to burn the cold air into smoke. The fiery energy slaughtered inside the 20x gravity room, heating up the whole place. The ice-cold flame hadn't shown its power yet, still floating next to Shi Yan, waiting for something. You. Han Shui took in a breath of hot air, her face surprised and discontented. Her hands that were gathering and condensing the cold air suddenly retreated. As cold air retreated little by little, Lung Danqing retreated continually, keeping a safe distance from Shi Yan. Her face was solemn as she gritted her teeth, regretting inside. She shouldn't have been that rash. Lung Danqing wasn't in a good mood, coldly looking at Bing Qing Tong. Now she knew that her big sister was really experienced and cunning. It wasn't because she was a coward that she had held down her powers. She had sensed something abnormal here. Lun Danqing's cold sweat rolled down as she was thinking. This Sky Realm boy wasn't afraid of the 4 Spirit Realm warriors, even though he was in the other's territory. It wasn't because he was dull-witted, but because of his absolute confidence. It wasn't good to be the one who stood out in a crowd indeed. Thoughts flickered quickly in her head as Lung Danqing immediately had her counterplan. She tried to beam a forced smile and laughed reluctantly. Ah, I just wanted to see what special stuff you have. Haha, you didn't fail me indeed. Now I know you're excellent. Lung Danqing paused for a while, then continued her begrudging laughter. If you don't mind, will you come to my palace to take a rest? We can discuss anything. I was a bit rash previously. Later on, I will take 3 glasses to make up my fault. How is it? Han Shui also smiled. Third sister and I are both interested in you, little brother. Where are you from? Who's your master? Could you tell us so we can have a better arrangement to welcome you? After they recognized the uncommonness in Shi Yan, Han Shui and Lung Danqing knew that using force wasn't practical at all. They then started to be polite and get to know his origin. Bing Qing Tong and Xuan Yuzhu had their beautiful eyes twinkled looking at him. Apparently, they were also interested in this matter. This young Sky Realm warrior not only had the ice-cold flame, but also the earth flame. It was impossible if he said that he had no earth-shaking force to watch his back. Although the 7 ancient factions on the divine Great Land were legitimate as the 7 strongest forces, countless other old monsters had been secluding, cultivating in their places in the toxic lands. They perhaps didn't show themselves for hundreds of years. Those warriors were formidable and had truly divine abilities. It could be said that they were the most unpredictable existences in the divine Great Land. If the divine Great Land didn't have a great change, these old monsters would not appear. Other ordinary warriors didn't even know about their existence and only considered the 7 old factions as the only gathering places of warriors in the entire divine Great Land. Bing Ching Tong was the master of the Ice Emperor City, and she wasn't dull-witted. Of course, she knew about those old monsters who were as strong as the hotshots of the 7 ancient factions. She also knew that those people had strange a temperament, and they would hide their fellows' shortcomings at all cost. If they were careless and messed up with those monster successors, they would bombard them with endless troubles. 30 years ago, an elder of the Spirit Treasure sect saw a young man holding a precious treasure in one of a treasures exhibition of the Spirit Treasure sect. After the event was done, he followed that young man discreetly. He killed the man in a wild place where no one had witnessed it and took that precious treasure, whose value was high to the extreme. Half a month later, a strong warrior called Chi Tian the Old Man, a true God realm warrior, came to the Spirit Treasure sect. Right in front of the sect master of the Spirit Treasure sect, he used a brutal strike to take out the soul and spirit of that elder. After that, he tortured the soul and spirit of that elder, who was at the second sky of Spirit Realm, for 3 days and nights before killing him. When the sect master of the Spirit Treasure sect got to know the truth, he couldn't do anything but keep silent. Although Chi Tian the Old Man and the sect master were both at the second sky of True God Realm, the old man had entered the realm 1 step ahead of the ladder. He wasn't sure that he could defeat him. All he could do was to stand and stare at his underling's terrible death. In the divine Great Land, Chi Tian the Old Man didn't belong to any old factions. Warriors who wholeheartedly practiced for the Great Path weren't in a small number. Many strong warriors who were rumored to be dead might appear at some point in between the course of a couple of 100 years. At that time, people would come to know that they were still alive. Those weird hotshots had earth-shaking cultivation bases. They often secluded themselves somewhere, and their successors operating in the world of martial arts wouldn't seem too dazzling. If someone didn't investigate their origin before taking action against them to satisfy their greed, what awaited them were raging thunders. At this moment, Bing Ching Tong, Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu couldn't help but consider Shi Yan as the descendant of that kind of an intimidating high realm warrior. The 4 then looked at Shi Yan with fear. It seemed that they vaguely saw a phantom as heavy as a mountain dormant behind him. Shi Yan burst out laughing, shook his head, and said faintly, "I don't have a teacher. I've just arrived at the divine Great Land. I'm not familiar with anything here." This kid was good at concealing. Bing Ching Tong exchanged looks with the others. They were even more certain that Shi Yan's background wasn't ordinary. They became more cautious, throwing away the idea of snatching the ice-cold flame from him. Some people from the mysterious, toxic lands traveling to the divine Great Land would always hide their identities. If they could form a good friendship with people like those, perhaps they could establish a relationship with their schools. This would bring an unimaginable benefit to the forces of the divine Great Land. "I don't want this precious ice-cold flame," Bing Ching Tong contemplated for a while before speaking up again. "The cultivating method I'm practicing requires the freezing environment. If you agree to help me, I will give a payment that will please you. I just need to borrow the ice-cold flame to create an acme of icy cold environment. What do you think? I also need it." Han Shui was stunned. She then exaggerated, "I can pay too." Her eyes brightened while her delicate body swayed towards him. Her aroma permeated his nostrils even when she hadn't approached him yet. "Little brother, come to my palace. I have the best wine and the most beautiful ladies. If you come, I'm sure you won't be disappointed." Lung Danqing also smiled, walking together with Han Shui, one on the right and the other on the left, as they walked toward Shi Yan. They stood next to him with hopes in their eyes. Bing Qing Tong and Han Shui were at the second sky of Spirit Realm, and the jade ice technique they were cultivating currently had a bottleneck. If they could use the ice-cold flame to create an extremely cold chamber, their jade ice technique would most likely break through, and they would enter the next realm. Although the bitter cold land and the ice chamber they had built were chilled to the bone, it wasn't enough to train the jade ice technique. If the ice chamber could reach the peak, they could see the true meaning of the ice and the coldness in their jade ice technique. In the legends, when a warrior cultivated the jade ice technique to the extreme, she could confine the space around her to the absolute zero temperature, which even stopped time. Moreover, it was possible to create the vacuum environment, too, with the possibility of icy field exploding that would affect any warrior entering this field. Their late teacher hadn't cultivated her jade ice technique to this level. However, she had left them a direction which said that if they wanted to cultivate to the peak where they could generate the absolute zero temperature, they had to understand this state and comprehend the intent domain of it. If they couldn't comprehend the state, but only imagine it, they would never enter the said realm. According to the legends, the ice-cold flame, this heaven flame, was one of the rare, strange things that could create this absolute zero temperature ambience. So, it wasn't hard to explain why they couldn't control themselves on seeing the ice-cold flame, getting to his location at all cost. Chapter 503, Gold Godblood. Chapter 503, Gold Godblood. Han Shui and Lung Danqing smiled alluringly, looking at him with face filled with longing, waiting for him to nod his head. As long as Shi Yan nodded his head to go with them, these girls believed that with their deeds they could make Shi Yan willing to build a suitable ice chamber for them to practice the jade ice technique. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Zuzhu were always cold and arrogant. They didn't know how to adapt to the changing situation. Also, they couldn't have Han Shui's and Lung Danqing's ways of charm. Thus, they could only stare at Shi Yan as he seemed to be moved. The two nice women couldn't help but curse Shi Yan in their hearts for his lascivious thoughts. "Do you have the cold chalcedony?" Shi Yan smiled, then suddenly inquired, "If you have the cold chalcedony, we can talk more. If you don't, forget it. My time is tight. I don't want to waste much time in the Ice Emperor City. Let's make it quick." Cold chalcedony. Bing Qing Tong, Han Shui, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Zuzhu discolored. When their teacher came back that time, she gave each of them a drop of the cold chalcedony, which would be useful when they entered the third sky of Spirit Realm. The cold chalcedony was the most precious treasure of the Ice Emperor City. In the extremely cold snow mountain of the bitter cold land, it could condense only one drop of the cold chalcedony in 1,000 years. To the women here who were cultivating the cold technique, the cold chalcedony was the most valuable pellet. As Shi Yan mentioned it in his first inquiry, it made the four of them stunned. "I only need the cold chalcedony." Looking at their faces, Shi Yan was startled, as he could guess that these women did indeed have the material the ice-cold flame needed. "The cold chalcedony is very important to us. Can you change to something else?" Han Shui frowned. "Women, essence, chi crystals, secret treasures. You can choose whatever you want. As long as the Ice Emperor City has it, I can help you get it. How about that?" Shaking his head, Shi Yan was persistent. "I only need the cold chalcedony." The other four fell into silence. "Not only one drop." Shi Yan cracked his mouth into a grin. "Each of you give me one drop of the cold chalcedony, and I will ask the ice-cold flame to build a suitable ice chamber for you guys to cultivate. Except for the cold chalcedony, I won't accept anything else." The four beautiful women were still musing, their faces complicated. "I'll give you 7 days to think about it. After 7 days, I'll leave the Ice Emperor City. You guys should discuss carefully." Sure, Yan wasn't hurried. An ice chamber that the four of you can cultivate. If you miss it, I'm afraid you will never find someone more capable. We need time to think about it. Han Shui frowned. After a while, she talked to Bing Qing Tong. Dijia, should we consider it carefully? Bing Qing Tong nodded. Little brother, we will set off now. After we make up our minds, we'll find you. Han Shui held a reluctant smile on her face, talking to him begrudgingly. Okay, let's go, third sister. Han Shui threw Lung Dan Qing a look and didn't linger any longer. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Zuzhu looked at Shi Yan with a complicated expression and then left. In front of the 70X gravity room, Ba Si Teng and Ba Fei had finished wetting their cultivation. They left the room exhausted, drenched in their sweat. Ah! Ba Si Teng suddenly exclaimed, just like he had discovered a new continent, looking dully at the 20X gravity chamber. Ba Fei was scared. Her hot body shivered, as couldn't believe her own eyes seeing the 4 women come out of the room one after another. The 4 most powerful women of the Ice Emperor City. Ah! Ba Si Ting shook his head, shouting in awe, What's going on? Why are the 4 ice flowers of the Ice Emperor City all here? Have they used the 20X gravity room? Bullsh *T, am I dizzy? See off the city master and the 3 grand elders. In front of each gravitational room, the Ice Emperor City's warriors had their faces solemn, bending to greet their leaders. Wow, it's true. I'm not dizzy, all right. Ba Si Ting shook his head continually, his face full of disbelief. He looked at the 20X gravity room, forced a smile, and spoke up quietly. Is that because of that little freak? Ba Ho was astounded for a while, then had a quick reaction. That folk has only the sky realm cultivation base. Does he have a noble status? Is he worth the 4 hotshots of the Ice Emperor City to humble themselves, coming here for him? Who is he then? Is he the messenger of the Pure Land or the martial spirit palace? Ba Si Ting's voice was serious. Not possible, even if he were the messenger of the Pure Land or the martial spirit palace. He wouldn't be worth the 4 ice flowers to come and greet him. Who is that fella? Oh boy, is he a hotshot in disguise? I can't see through him. Bo Ho's face was horrible. While they were still stunned, Shi Yan walked out from the 20X gravity room, his face indifferent. All the guards of the Ice Emperor City, standing in front of the chambers, were moved with fear on seeing him. They became more cautious. Although Bing Qing Tong and Han Shui didn't say clearly about Shi Yan's identity, just with the presence of the 4 of them in the 20X gravity room, they knew Shi Yan should have an extremely noble status. The guard of the 20X chamber had thought that Shi Yan had some mental problems when he had chosen the room while he had the Sky Realm cultivation base. But now he was dumbstruck seeing Shi Yan walk out of the room. It looked like the young man had a mysterious halo covering his entire body. Well, things the extraordinary people do shouldn't be judged with common sense. It's my bad eyes. That guard shook his head embarrassingly. He didn't dare to look down on Shi Yan anymore, and thought that his realm was not enough to explain the hotshot's thoughts. Getting out of the gravitational training yard, Shi Yan looked at the majestic architecture made from ice. He smiled and leisurely walked out of the place, reaching the cross. It was late at night. The shining moon hung on the horizon, beaming the cold moonlight towards this world, immersing the entire Ice Emperor City in its hazy light. Under the moonlight, the Ice Emperor City wasn't dark. The special ice structures, sparkling like stars, looked really dreamy. With the ice-cold flame on his body, as long as he released its aura, the other 4 women would find him at any minute. So, he didn't need to worry that the 4 beautiful women couldn't find him. After the current strenuous practice, he was hungry. He wanted to find an inn with good food and wine to fill his empty stomach first. Hey, little brother. Ba Si Ting called him from behind, his face solemn and revealing a trail of respect. Sure, Yen turned around with a frown and glared at the man. He then spoke up with a friendly voice. "What's up? Did the city master and the elders talk to you there?" Ba Si Ting was cautious and had a humble attitude, as he was afraid that he would enrage Shi Yen. "We all saw that." "Yeah, they came to see me and discuss something. Does it matter to you?" "No, nothing matters to us." Ba Si Ting waved his hands constantly. He became tense. No, nothing relates to us, even a small bit. Ba Si Ting stammered as if he had something he wanted to ask, but he didn't dare to utter the words. "Stupid." Ba Fei cursed him under her breath. She couldn't help but step forward, straightening her hot body, showing her ample bosom and slender thighs. "Could we trouble you for one thing?" Shi Yen squinted, raking his eyes through her body, and then asked in a neither fast nor slow manner. "Inside the palace of the Ice Emperor City's city master, there's something my brother wants to take. Could you help us take it out?" Ba Fei tenderly gritted her teeth, looking at Shi Yen in the eyes, asking him seriously, "What would I get for that?" Shi Yen was a little bit bewildered as he asked deliberately, "At present, we don't have anything valuable, but we promise you that in the future we can pay you what you deserve," Baho affirmed. "Sorry, just for the unknown future. I won't waste my strength," Shi Yen shook his head. Ba Si Ting was disappointed, releasing a long sigh. "Can we talk in private for a minute? We can show you this." Ba Fei was still insistent, her eyes rigid. Ba Si Ting was shaken, screaming, "Don't!" "Guh." Ba Fei hissed, "Our time is running out. If we wait further, we will miss the only chance of our lives." "But we don't know him," Ba Si Ting said bitterly. "We can bet once." Shi Yen was astounded, looking at this pair of brother and sister, as he didn't know what they wanted to show him. From their faces, it should be something strange. "What do you want to show me?" "You have to promise us. Even if you don't help us, you will tell no one what you've seen." Bo Ho's visage was solemn. "No problem." "Good, don't wait anymore. If we wait more, your body will have unpredictable changes. It would be too late at that time." "Okay." Under her advice, Ba Si Ting finally gave in. "Come with us." Ba Fei was shaken as she got the approval from her brother. She immediately guided the way. Not long after that, Shi Yen and this pair of brother and sister arrived at a remote inn. When they got into a closed room, Ba Si Ting took a deep breath, then took out a dagger and cut his left wrist. Shi Yen was bewildered, watching the man's deed suspiciously. Suddenly, Shi Yan's pupils shrank, his face discolored when he screamed, "Gold blood!" At the same time, the ice-cold flame sent him a surprising thought from the blood vein ring. "God blood! God blood!" Shi Yen was shaken. "You saw it." Ba Si Teng's countenance was solemn. "My blood isn't like the typical blood. It has a golden hue. According to my family's teachings, this blood is inherited from my ancestors. However, we have the God Blood's chain. If we can find the God bloodline key, we can open the chain of the God blood and obtain the powers of our ancestors. If the chains on my God blood are unlocked, I will enter the new realm immediately. Moreover, it will bring more benefit later on." Shi Yen was dumbstruck, dropping his jaws. Chapter 504 The Decline of the Family. Chapter 504 The Decline of the Family. According to the legends, our Ba family is the descendant of the Great Vigor God King. We have the gold blood and the Great Vigor martial spirit. Once the God blood chains are activated by the God bloodline key, the Great Vigor martial spirit will enter the new realm of a new world. The cultivating path will be smoother than what we could ever wish for. Ba Fei said proudly, "It's true. In the Antiquity era, the Great Vigor God King, the Thunder God King, and the Immortal God King were all famous. They were the prominent hotshots of the previous era. The three great god kings had a close relationship. They walked together and supported each other. We can say that they were the best, rigid allies. The ice-cold flame sent an interesting message to Shi Yen from the blood vein ring. It seemed very surprised. In the Antiquity era, many god kings appeared, and they were also divided into many parties. The immortal god king, the great vigor god king, and the thunder god king belonged to one party, ruling an area. A long time ago, the rumors said that in the very last battle, the god kings took all they had to kill each other. No one ever knew why, though. In the end, the immortal god king, the great vigor god king, and the thunder god king lost the battle. Even at the breaking dawn of the next era, the parties and allies of the three great god kings hadn't recovered. Due to their defeat, they couldn't take the main control of the Grace mainland. Today's 7 ancient factions of the Grace mainland were the descendants of the god kings who had won the battle. Afterward, the descendants of the immortal god king, the great vigor god king, and the thunder god king weren't famous in the Grace mainland. It seemed that they were restrained. As they both belonged to the defeated party and the descendants of the god kings, after Shi Yen saw the vigor king god's gold blood, he was astounded. He gulped and said, "I'll help you take that god bloodline key." Ba Siting and Ba Fei were surprised. "Rest assured, after I've unlocked the god bloodline chains, I will become stronger and will repay your favor." Ba Siting promised. "Can you let me check your body?" Sure, Yen opened his heart immediately. He wanted to confirm whether Ba Siting was a real descendant of the great vigor god king. Sure. Ba Siting wasn't hesitant. He extended his arms to Shi Yen, signaling that Shi Yen should check him out. Sure, Yen didn't say anything. He stepped forward and held the man's arm, using his soul consciousness to enter the man's body. As soon as his soul consciousness got into Ba Siting's body, Shi Yan's sea of consciousness was stirred up grumblingly, his face fearful. Inside Ba Siting's body, a malicious blood was seen running. He could vaguely see a long, thin chain radiating a golden halo. The chains appeared in the veins of his entire body, which locked his blood veins and meridians. The strange thing was that after Shi Yen had sent his soul consciousness into his body, the chains created by the god power suddenly moved. A wild, furious energy shot out like a raging flood. All of a sudden, gold halo covered Ba Siting's left fist, and blood gushed out instantly. The golden light pierced out from the inside of his body, which made Shi Yan's face grimace as if 10,000 electric snakes were twisting and nibbling inside his whole body. This severe pain seemed to be able to explode his sea of consciousness. Terrifying. Shi Yan retrieved his bloody left hand. His face had a great change as he couldn't help but scream. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know that would happen." Ba Siting was a bit anxious as he explained quickly. Ba Fei's face discolored. She hurried to storm over, attempting to wrap up Shi Yan's wound. However, when she approached Shi Yan, she saw that the wounds on his hand were recovering with the speed that naked eyes could observe. Ba Fei dropped her jaws. In just a short while, the open wounds on his hands were restored, leaving no trace. Ba Siting was dumbfounded. What's going on? It's destined. You and I have met up here probably because of the divine intervention. Shi Yan mused, then smiled. Baji, does your family's teachings say anything about the immortal and the thunder god kings? Ba Siting shook his head. Our Ba family has only my sister and me here. The rumors have been changing for a long time. I only know some legends about my family. The Ba family has never heard anything about the immortal and the thunder god kings. Your Ba family and I share the same origin. Shi Yan sighed ruefully. In the Antiquity era, the three great god kings had their names well known as heroes, but they all have declined now. The Yang family's still good. They had left the Grace mainland stage, but at least they still have remained in the endless sea. The Ba family couldn't endure that. I didn't expect that Ba family has only you two now. Ba Si Ting and Ba Fei were bewildered. I have the immortal martial spirit. Just consider me the descendant of the immortal God King. Together with the great vigor martial spirit of the Ba family and the thunder martial spirit of the Lei family, we have the Antiquity era 3 God souls. They're the spirit-level martial spirits. Hearing him, Ba Si Ting and Ba Fei were struck with shock, looking at him with astonishment. In the Antiquity era, the immortal God King, the great vigor God King, and the thunder God King were on the same side. They lost the last battle, and at that moment, the 3 great kings fell, and their bloodlines gradually declined. Shurian's countenance darkened as he told them the truth from the ancient times. Ba Si Ting and Ba Fei listened to him attentively and were quite surprised. This was the secret of the Antiquity. The Ba family had lost its inheritance together with the deaths of their ancestors. The legends related to that era had lost in the long river of history. If they hadn't bumped into Shurian today, this pair of brother and sister would never know anything. So, we actually had the great luck today to find the most suitable one. Ba Fei's face brightened with joy. The problem they had had for years was solved today in a more dramatic way. Are you sure that the God Blood Key is in the City Master's palace? Shurian frowned, asking them. I can confirm it because I can sense it, Ba Si Ting nodded. I heard that it requires an extremely cold place to preserve the God Blood Key. When the very first City Master of the Ice Emperor went to collect the cold jade grass in the cold, snowy mountains, she found the God Blood Key by chance. Without the knowledge about the God Blood of my Ba family, she couldn't know what the God Blood Key is. She kept it as a small decoration in the Ice Emperor's treasure. No one visits it, and no one knows it's the miraculous God Blood Key. Oh, it is like that. Shurian contemplated, then smiled. Seems your destiny has set this all up. Haha. The Ice Emperor's City Master and the 3 elders are begging for my favor. It shouldn't be a big deal to ask for the God Blood Key to help you guys. We should wait for a while. After they've discussed the matter, they will come to me. Shurji, why do the 4 ice flowers of the Ice Emperor have to beg for your favor? Ba Si Ting was astounded. Ha! Shurian smiled. I have the thing they want, which they will give up anything else to have. With this backup, I think they will give in. The brother and sister were astonished. How are the 4 great warriors of the Ice Emperor City? Shurian thought and then inquired. The City Master Bingqing Tong's a woman of discipline. Although she's a little bit arrogant and cold, she treats the other warriors in the city fairly. She strives for a friendly relationship with the foreign cities. She won't cause a war on her own. This woman is clever. Under her management, although the Ice Emperor is still the worst city among the 7 cities of the Fighting Union, it has some signs of thriving. It seemed Ba Fei understood the situation of the city well. She slowly informed them. Han Shui has big wild schemes. She isn't contented with the elder position. She always wanted to take the throne of the City Master Bingqing Tong. 3 years ago, Han Shui finally entered the 2nd sky of Spirit Realm, which is the same as Bingqing Tong. Years ago, she failed the challenge to become the City Master, and now she wants to take it back. How about Lung Danqing and Shuangyu Zhu? Lung Danqing has deep schemes. She's in charge of communicating with the other forces around Ice Emperor. I heard that she has good relationships with those forces. Since her realm's 1 level lower than the others, she doesn't have the wild thoughts to replace Bingqing Tong. Anyway, she has a good relationship with Han Shui, so she would tilt on her side. Rumors say that Lung Danqing has persuaded Han Shui that once she can take the position of the City Master, she will make the Ice Emperor City exit the Fighting Union. It seems she has found a new backup for the Ice Emperor City. Shuangyu Zhu rarely appears. She's tender, and wants to maintain the current status. She doesn't like the way Han Shui and Lung Danqing work. That year, when their adoptive mother was still alive, she and the others didn't get along well. Shuang Yuzhu was the last one the city master had adopted. When she was young, Han Shui and Lung Danqing often bullied her, and Bing Qing Tong had protected her. She will definitely be on the same side as Bing Qing Tong. Ba Fei briefed the city's situation. Sure, Yan listened to her with great interest. He didn't expect that the 4 beautiful women had been engaging in a fierce competition. Seemed like the saying that wars happened where people dwelled was indeed true. Oh! At this moment, Shi Yan suddenly raised his brows. He opened the window, looking at a pair of sisters across, his face surprised. Bing Chang and Bing Wei, these 2 girls were standing in front of the inn, their faces smiling. It seemed they were searching for something. As they saw Shi Yan, the 2 beautiful sisters had their eyes lit while waving at him. Shi Yan was surprised. Not long after that, they stopped in front of their room and gently knocked the door. Opening the door, Shi Yan frowned while looking at the 2 girls and said coldly, "Are you coming for me? Mother sent us to tell you that you should be careful these days. Someone would trouble you." Bing Chang observed the surroundings to see if anyone was near. Then, she pressed her voice down. She gave Ba Siting and his sister a skeptical look, but when she found that they only had the Nirvana Realm cultivation base, she relaxed a little bit. "Who's your mother?" "The leader of the Ice Emperor." "Okay, I got it. You guys can go now. Be careful. I heard that Han Shui and Lung Danqing have left the city. They must have gone seeking help. My mother said that if you aren't so sure, you should leave the city. We can talk later about that ice chamber. If you don't leave now, it'll be more troublesome." Bing Wei couldn't hide her thoughts as she hurriedly gave him advice. Shi Yan nodded as he squinted his eyes. "Thanks for your warning. I got it." The 2 sisters didn't talk more, slightly bent over and then left. Chapter 505, A Humiliating Condition. Chapter 505, A Humiliating Condition. Miasma cloud wetland in the south of the Ice Emperor City. Toxic miasma was like a colorful cloud that covered the bog year-round. Inside the bog, countless poisonous beasts and insects showed themselves here and there. Dense toxic flies buzzed everywhere. No need to mention the ordinary residents. Even if warriors at low realms met those toxic flies, they would hardly survive. In the land in the middle of the miasma cloud wetland were many buildings and greeneries, where all kinds of poisonous herbs with strange, malicious appearances were planted. Toxic smoke fumed out from those plants. Many giant worms stayed near the poisonous herbs to take in the toxic smoke and cultivate. The miasma cloud wetland was the base of the Ning family of Heaven Temple. The precursors of the Ning family were the disciples of the 5 Poison sect, in which he had learned to cultivate poisonous techniques. Later on, they had depended on the Heaven Temple and the secrets they had learned from the sect to create a dual cultivating method of using potions in their martial arts. Each member of the Nings not only had a profound realm and mysterious techniques, they also knew how to tame and use poisonous insects. Warriors of the Nings were all hotshots who were good at using potions. More dangerously, they were friends with toxic beasts and insects. Some of them even could use the toxic miasma to break through, fusing their profound qi with the toxic air, which helped them become poisonous warriors. The reason for the Ning family to become one of the peak clans of the Heaven Temple was that they had the formidable poisonous techniques. During the battle, if their enemies had a moment of being carelessness, the toxins would get into their bodies instantly. Soon, they would lose their fighting abilities, which would facilitate the Nings in killing them easily. The Ning family was strong because of their tremendous poisonous techniques. The toxic green vapor was as thick as dense clouds, meandering above the Ning family without dispersing. An aura that numbed people's spirits flooded the Ning's territory. Warriors who intruded the area had to take each step with fear. Perhaps they were killed because of the poison before they could even reach the family's territory. Although Han Shui and Lung Danqing had a spirit realm cultivation base, they didn't dare to underestimate the place. They had to release the cold air to create an icy frost cage around their bodies, in order to prevent the poison that they could see with their naked eyes from entering their bodies. This wasn't the first time Han Shui and Lung Danqing had visited this place. They had just arrived when a Ning family's warrior wearing a somber face greeted them and led them to a wide, clean place which didn't have the toxic air. Elder Han and Elder Lung have visited our simple house. It's our honor. Ha! Ning Luo Han smiled, signaling his servants to bring them tea. Which important business do you want to discuss here this time? I had sent 7 soldiers, but none of them have come back. Don't tell me that they died under Bing Qingtong's hands. Ning Luo Han had the first sky of Spirit Realm cultivation base. He was one of the managers of the Ning family. His blood brother, Ning Duquan, was the current master of the Ning family, whose cultivation base was at the 3rd sky of Spirit Realm. He had secluded in a secret place inside the miasma cloud wetland to cultivate his poisonous technique year-round. People rumored that he was about to master the Ning family's 7-colored poisonous technique. Although Ning Duquan was the head of the family, he had rarely put his hands into the family's businesses. If it weren't a crucial matter, members of the family wouldn't disturb him either. A young man with the ice-cold flame has come to our Ice Emperor City. Han Shui smiled and spoke up naturally. You know how important the ice-cold flame is to people who cultivate ice-cold technique like us. We're here personally to ask for the power of the Nings to please that young man and his ice-cold flame. Ice-cold flame. Ning Luo Han's eyes brightened. He shouted with his face stiff, What realm does he have? You too aren't sure that you could defeat him? He also knew that Han Shui and Lung Danqing were the kinds of people with greed and detachable thoughts. If they knew a man in the Ice Emperor with the ice-cold flame, how could they control themselves? Yeah, we don't want to conceal anything. That boy has just the 2nd sky of Sky Realm, but he does not only have the ice-cold flame, he also has another extremely hot heaven flame. We don't know what it is, though. Han Shui forced a smile, shaking her head. The ice-cold flame belongs to the cold class, and that scorching flame's totally opposite. But they both live together with that boy. I think he should have some big backup. Perhaps he's the dear disciple of those old monsters. We don't dare to take action rashly. Ning Luo Han had his face slightly change on hearing the woman. In the divine Great Land, those old monsters hadn't shown themselves regularly, but everyone knew of their magical, divine powers that could pierce through the sky and the earth. Their true-line disciples, of course, were extraordinary. Each of them had a seal in their souls when they came to civilian society. When they encountered something unexpected, the monsters behind them would be notified shortly. If they messed up with those old monsters, not only the Ice Emperor City wouldn't be safe, the Ning family wouldn't live in peace either. If he's the disciple of one of those monsters, this matter will be tough to deal with. Ning Luo Han contemplated, his face solemn. He weighed the matter for a while and then spoke up. What are you going to do? I heard that the Ning family has someone who has a deep understanding of soul restraint. He has a profound technique in using soul seals. If we can ask him to help, when we eliminate that kid, we can also destroy the seal of his teacher in his soul. I think it shouldn't be a big deal then. Lung Danqing held a smiling face. Her jade-like hand lifted the glass of wine and toasted towards Ning Luo Han. We just need the ice-cold flame. We don't want anything else on that kid. At this moment, we only know that he has another kind of scorching heaven flame. We're not sure if he has other things, but I think he has more treasures for sure. Ning Luo Han showed that he was moved on hearing the other, but he didn't agree with her immediately, frowning in his thoughts. Han Shui and Lung Danqing didn't intervene in his thoughts either, just looking at him with hopes in their eyes while waiting for his decision. What they should have spoken, they had already done. The situation was clear now. If they needed to take action, it would be risky, although things looked positive. Ning Luo Han wasn't an idiot. He had it clear as to which part he should play. Under Han Shui's and Lung Danqing's attentive looks, Ning Luo Han was hesitant. A long while after that, he took a deep breath. That man doesn't belong to our Ning family. He needs to practice the poisonous technique, which is why he came to the miasma cloud wetland. We treat him as our distinguished guest. We can't force him. In this business, we will just support you guys. If he doesn't want to give a hand, I don't dare to force. We've bothered you much, Han Shui said with her tender face. I'll go talk him into this. Ning Luo Han stood up. You guys sit here and enjoy tea. I'll be right back. Han Shui and Lung Danqing nodded. A long while later. At the moment, Han Shui and Lung Danqing had started to get impatient when Ning Luo Han came back alone. His facial expression was complicated as he furrowed his brows tightly and took a sip of his tea. It seemed he was choosing the words to speak out. How is it? Lung Danqing leaned her softy body forward, showing that she was in a hurry. He said that the risk is big. If that kid is the true line disciple of those old monsters, and he wants to remove the seal in the soul, the price he has to pay will not be small. Ning Luo Han drank his tea, his face a little bit odd. However, he also said that if you guys can show your goodwill, he can take the risk once. What goodwill does he want? Han Shui and Lung Danqing spoke in unison. Ning Luo Han's eyes wandered on the bodies of the two beautiful women while flickering. A few minutes later, he said, One of you two, if you agree to spend the night with him, he will take the risk. Moreover, besides the ice-cold flame, all the treasures that Kid has would belong to him. Han Shui and Lung Danqing became cold in rage. They snorted at the same time. I know that you guys are cultivating the ice jade technique. Unless you've mastered the technique, you have to stay pure. Once you've lost your purity, your cultivation will become strenuous, with many risks and a high possibility of bedevilment. That's why you are all virgins. Although you look naughty, you always keep yourself pure. Ning Luo Han could guess that the women would get enraged. He tried speaking nicely. I know it's difficult to you, so I negotiated with him. But he isn't reasonable. Once he says his words, he won't change a bit. However, if you can get the ice-cold flame, the extremely cold treasure, even if you have to lose your virginity, it shouldn't be a big deal for you to push your ice jade technique to the peak. You should think about it in a positive way. Han Shui and Lung Danqing stiffened their cold faces and gritted their ivory teeth while weighing pros and cons. Ning Luo Han's eyes were contemplating, but they were also raking over the tender, soft bodies of the two women. However, his face was calm, and he didn't utter a word. He knew how important the ice-cold flame was to them. If they could have the ice-cold flame, their path of cultivation would be lit up. Within 10 years, they could enter the next realm. Spending 50 years to enter the true God realm wasn't just a dream anymore. He knew it would be tough for these two women to give up the ice-cold flame. A long, long time after that, Han Shui took a deep breath as her firm, milky white bosom bounced. Her beautiful eyes looked at Ning Luo Han as she was trying to press down the disdain in her heart, asking coldly, Can he be 100% sure? If he can promise that nothing unexpected will happen and he can solve everything properly, I can satisfy him for one night. Haha, I have the third sky of spirit realm cultivation base. If I take the risk and damage my soul to solve the seal cast by a true God realm warrior, I'm certain about that. A hoarse voice came from outside. They then saw an old man riding an ugly giant toad, slowly appearing from the swamp far from them. Even an elephant was smaller than the toad he was riding. The giant toad had 8 shimmering silver line patterns on its back, while its whole body was covered with gray bubbles. Those bubbles even had small holes from where toxic smoke fumed out, leaving the squishy venom, which looked gross to the extreme. Chapter 506, Leading the Wolf into the House. Chapter 506, Leading the Wolf into the House. The old man sitting on the toad looked almost the same as his mount. His face was full of pimples, venom oozing out of them, which was too disgusting to look at. This should keep people away from him. As Han Shui just told the other that she agreed with his condition, she almost fainted on seeing the freak old man. She really wanted to throw up on thinking about sleeping with this gross old man for one night. She even wanted to kill herself now. What sins had I done? Even if I had to serve a pig, it would be much comfortable than serving this old man. Han Shui could feel her intestines twist in regret. Clenching her teeth, she jolted up from her seat. Forget it, I can't agree with you. We should leave. You agreed, but now you want to turn back on your word. The old man snorted, his face more ferocious. You think I'm ugly? Haha, even if you don't agree, you have to agree. If you don't want that, don't think about getting out of this miasma cloud wetland. I hate women who judge the book by its cover like you the most. Han Shui and Lung Dan Qing discolored. Although old you isn't good looking, he's a good man. Elder Han, accept him. The ice-cold flame is really good for you, right? Agree with him, okay? Advised Ning Luo Han. Even if she were willing to be with that kid for 1 month, she wouldn't feel dirty. Together with this kind of disgusting men, though. Han Shui suddenly remembered Shi Yan. Comparing the two of them, she recognized that the young man was imposing and handsome. Anyway, under the threat of that old man, she had no other choice. As the other had the third sky of Spirit Realm and the miasma cloud wetland had such a dense, toxic gas, if she fought with him here, she wouldn't even have a way to run. From Ning Luo Han's attitude, the two women knew that he inclined to the old man. This enraged Han Shui, but she couldn't do anything. Second sister, Lung Danqing, put on a long face, blinking at her constantly as she was signaling her sister not to act rashly. Han Shui was so bitter she wished she hadn't come here. She then made up her mind. After this business was done, she would never come to the Ning family again. She got it. Ning Luo Han surely had known that old man's characteristics, and meant to harm her with the purpose of pleasing and flattering this old man for his tremendous poisonous technique. Think about it. If you don't comply, the miasma cloud wetland will be your graves. Yu Li Ming grinned gloomily. Even if I kill you too, your bodies would still be clean and fresh. Although it isn't much pleasing and interesting when you're dead, it's still better than having nothing to toy with. After the old freak uttered his words, Han Shui and Lung Danqing had their soft bodies shiver in fear. This disgusting old man, how could he be so morbid? Thinking that their bodies wouldn't escape the bad luck even if they were dead, Han Shui and Lung Danqing wanted to cry, but their tears couldn't roll down. This was what happened when one walked into the wolf's lair. Elder Han, Elder Lung, you guys shouldn't think much. Actually, old Yu is really tender. He's easy to live with. As long as you make him pleased, the master position of the Ice Emperor will belong to you. With old Yu, your Ice Emperor city will have a firm backup. Think about it. Ning Luo Han tried to advise them. He and Yu Li Ming were both dark and sinister. They were forcing and enticing to break the psychological defense of the two beautiful women. This would make them do what they wanted obediently. So vicious indeed. Sister, Lung Danqing looked at her pitifully. Han Shui had no color in her face, fearfully pale. She clenched her teeth, her soft body trembling. Desperate grief and indignation filled her eyes. Half a minute later, Han Shui spoke up with a trembling voice. Okay, I agree with you. That's good, haha. Yu Liming grinned gloomily. Go. I'm going with you to the Ice Emperor City. Leave the boy for me. You guys don't need to do anything. Oh, right. I heard that Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu are really beautiful. Anyway, I'll help you to take the city master position. I'll take these two little b asterisk cheese too. Haha, I've been patient and holding it for too long. Finally, I have a chance to release it. Han Shui's and Lung Danqing's hearts sank to the bottom of the valley, leading the wolf into the house. The two women felt regret deep into their bones. They wanted to cry, but they couldn't. They wanted to borrow the force from the Ning family to snatch the ice-cold flame and the city master position, but they had never thought that they would mess up with such ugly monster. Thinking about their future, the two women just wanted to kill themselves. I have to make it clear that this has nothing to do with the Ning family. Ning Luohan wore a serious complexion, talking to Han Shui and Yu Liming. It's your business. The Ning family isn't engaged in it. If you can't clean up your mess, and some old monsters come to you in the future, you shouldn't drag us in. Ning Luohan wanted to deny all the relations. Although he believed that Yu Liming could handle everything properly, to save the Ning family from possible consequences, he had to explain beforehand. If they annoyed some monster, the Ning family couldn't live in peace. Ning Luohan was afraid, so he had to say so. Relax. I dare to embrace this business, so of course I have a perfect plan. Yu Liming grinned fiendishly, throwing a glare at Han Shui and Lung Danqing. Let's go! Goosebumps rose on Han Shui's skin, but she was still persistent and gave him a slight nod. Lung Danqing kept reminding herself that she had to be patient and shouldn't be flurried. She discreetly took out a sound stone, seizing the chance that Yu Liming was still laughing contentedly to pour her soul consciousness into it. The Ice Emperor City. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu were discussing softly when all of a sudden her black, delicate eyebrows furrowed. She took a sound stone out of her sleeve, then talked with surprise. It's weird that your third sister has sent me a message. That year, our mother gave each of us a sound stone, but she had never sent me any message ever since. Has she changed now? Third sister is good at calculating things. I guess she has some problems. Otherwise, with her characteristics, she would never be nice to us, mocked Shuang Yu Zhu. Bing Qing Tong nodded. She knew her little sister was right. Anyway, she still grabbed the sound stone and sensed, after which her face changed. Dijia, what's going on? Shuang Yu Zhu shouted. It's your third sister's soul consciousness. She said that we should let that kid get out of the Ice Emperor as soon as possible. And she asked us to send the message to the General Union that a big, bad risk is about to pour on the Ice Emperor City. Bing Qing Tong suddenly rose up, her face serious. She also said that it's best the two of us to take all the daughters and leave the Ice Emperor City too. And we shouldn't let anyone stay. Shuang Yu Zhu's beautiful face paled. She couldn't understand anything. She swore on our adoptive mother's name. Her words should be true, and I guess we have to believe her. Bing Qing Tong's face darkened. Although she didn't get along well with us, she would never take our mother's name to joke. I think they are encountering something beyond our imagination. What should we do? I'm going to send the message to the General Union, but it's too far from here. We can't wait for their aid. Bing Qing Tong made a quick decision. You ask people to bring our daughters back. We have to leave the Ice Emperor City immediately. Oh, right, you should find that boy personally. Ask him to leave the city as soon as possible. He's the cause of this mess. You got it. 1 hour later, a slender, white figure dashed over like an electric shot and halted in front of Shi Yan's room outside the inn. Shi Yan recognized the occurrence immediately. He frowned, then opened the window, cocking his head to see the cold, pretty woman standing down there. The two little girls have come and warned me to be more careful. You want to repeat that? Oh. No, Shuang Yuzhu replied to him indifferently, turning into a beam of cold light and getting into his room through the window. After she got in, she saw Ba Siting and Ba Fei. She was surprised. You're friends? Yep. You should leave the Ice Emperor immediately as far as you can. Depart from the north gate of the city. Shuang Yuzhu said curtly, a strong warrior is coming to the Ice Emperor and he comes for you. Once he comes, if you haven't got out yet, you will hardly escape death. Strong warrior? Shi Yan's countenance didn't change. He smiled, but it didn't look like a smile. How strong is he? Third sky of spirit realm. Shuang Yuzhu snorted. You should be cautious, mind your life. He dares to take action, which means he has a perfect plan already. Even if your teacher has placed a seal in your soul, you can't escape him. If he dares to take action, he should have this confidence to break your soul seal. A third sky of spirit realm warrior. Yeah, he's tremendous indeed. Shi Yan nodded, his face smiling as usual. All right, I got it. You should go. I'll think about it for a while and then I will leave the city. No, you have to go now. My big sister's waiting for you at the north gate of the city. Follow me now. Shuang Yuzhu squinted as she got mad. She was discontented with Shi Yan's manners. She told him it was very crucial, but he was still unhurried. Their opponent's speed was fast. If he arrived early, wouldn't they fall into danger too? What? Shi Yan was startled. You guys are going too. Shuang Yuzhu grimaced and gritted her teeth. The other party is too strong. You are his target, but he has malicious intent towards us, too. The General Union can't help us instantly. We have to leave the Ice Emperor city to dodge the strong gust. Don't talk nonsense, go now. Seeing her serious tone and hurried manners, Shi Yan felt funny inside. However, since he had his own calculation, he didn't want to go hard on the other. He mused and then headed to Ba Siting and Ba Fei. You guys stay here. After everything is settled, I'll come find you. Okay. Ba Siting and Ba Fei answered him in unison. After their talk, they got to know the relationship between the immortal God King, the great Vigor God King, and the Thunder God King. And Shi Yan, he wasn't just a guy who had a business deal with them. He did feel concern for them as friends. Yeah, don't worry. I'll be okay. Shi Yan smiled and said calmly, I'll be back shortly. What I agreed with you, I will fulfill it. Do not dawdle anymore. All right. You're too annoying. What is to be worried about? Shi Yan glared at her, and then they went out together, dashing like they were flying across the Ice Emperor city to the north. Chapter 507 All Kinds of Flowers Bloom. Chapter 507 All Kinds of Flowers Bloom. The north corner of the Ice Emperor city was a place of white snow. This white snow wasn't only the color of nature, but the color of the snow-white skin of many beauties. Shi Yan arrived together with Shuang Yuzhu. At first glance, he saw that every woman here was too charming, making his eyes light up. Bing Qing Tong had 5 adopted daughters. Besides Bing Chang and Bing Wei, the other 3 were beautiful too. Shuang Yuzhu had 4 adopted daughters. They were all as pretty as snowflakes. Just looking at them could make people feel their mind get relaxed. These 9 young maids were truly appealing, and people hardly saw them in the street. They were gathering at the same place, just like a garden of blooming flowers, which lit up the whole snowy area. Bing Qing Tong was assigning something to them. As she saw Shi Yan, she said with her serious, cold tone, "Leave with us. Quick. This guy's slow. He's wasted a lot of time. I don't know what he's thinking." Shuang Yuzhu wasn't happy. She snorted, "Dajia, why do we have to go with him? That man's coming to the Ice Emperor city because of him. If we split up, we could reduce the troubles." "Don't say that," Bing Qingtong frowned. Second sister and third sister met some troubles, which have gone beyond our imagination. If something happens to him, we can hardly deny the involvement. White Emperor City isn't far from the Ice Emperor City. We can take care of each other along the way. Bing Qingtong still wanted the ice chamber, as she still wished to borrow the ice-cold flame to practice her ice jade technique. She couldn't just stand and stare at Shurian being killed. Seems like they have a big trouble. Shurian curled his lips. Well, if you guys have to run distressingly like this, I think that man should be very intimidating. I want to ask, if we meet them, what would you do? Protect me or leave me behind? Sure, Yen wasn't afraid of the third sky of spirit realm warriors for a long time. This level of warriors couldn't scare him anymore, as the war devil in the blood vein ring was enough to finish them. The reason why he came with them was to ask for the God Blood Key on behalf of Ba Siteng, which depended on Bing Qingtong's and Xuan Yuzhu's attitudes. He needed to observe to decide whether or not he should offer them his goodwill. If we meet them, of course, we will take action. Even if it's for the ice-cold flame, we will help you escape. Bing Qingtong soon had a plan. She nodded without any hesitation. That man knows about you because of my reckless second sister and third sister. Although I don't get along well with my sisters, they are the people of the Ice Emperor City. The Ice Emperor City has a part in it, so I'll take responsibility. I don't deny it. Move. Xuan Yuzhu let out a quiet sigh. She knew that her big sister was this kind of person who valued favors and relationships. It was also why, when the Ice Emperor City discussed business with the others, they often bore minor losses. The reason why she had a close relationship with her big sister also was because of her characteristics. Her adoptive mother had also given the leading position to her because of her manners and bearing. Haha, I've never thought that the city master of the Ice Emperor City upholds justice that much. Thanks for your goodwill. Shurian was surprised, gazing at her. With your recent words at this moment, our business is settled. Even if I don't have the 2 drops of the cold chalcedony from Han Shui and Lung Danqing, I can think of giving you a hand in building a suitable ice chamber for your cultivation. The 2 beautiful women had their eyes brightened. The 9 young girls who were as pretty as pictures also got struck by an extreme joy. An ice chamber at its acme was the fortunate land to warriors who practiced ice jade technique. All warriors in the city could benefit from it. Perhaps their powers and martial technique could advance by 1 level. In the early stages, it was easy to break through the new levels of the ice jade technique, but it was getting much harder in the later stages. From the spirit realm, every small level was challenging. It was the reason why most of the 9 daughters of Bing Qingtong and Xuan Yuzhu had a sky realm cultivation base. Only 2 of them had the 3rd sky of Nirvana realm cultivation base. At the earlier stages, they didn't meet many bottlenecks while cultivating ice jade technique. Moreover, Bing Qingtong and Xuan Yuzhu always protected and guided them, which smoothened their cultivating path. However, to warriors who practiced the ice jade technique, from the sky realm to the spirit realm was a vast river. Without the flash of recognition and sufficient will, they would hardly make a further step. Most of the warriors who were cultivating ice jade technique couldn't enter the spirit realm, even if they had to spend their whole life on it. They would be halted at the sky realm, never having another breakthrough. It didn't seem as simple as waiting for the essence qi to gather enough to enter the new realm. Besides many cold attribute items, they had to have a big luck. The ice chamber was one of the lucky chances. If they used the cold air from the ice-cold flame to create an ice chamber in the extremely cold ambience, the warriors who were cultivating ice jade technique could have a chance to comprehend the deeper meaning of the coldness. Bing Qingtong and Xuan Yuzhu could receive a big benefit from the chamber, and so could their daughters. As they were in the sky realm already, they could enter the spirit realm directly. Time's running out. We should move now. Bing Ching Tong mused and then frowned while she was observing the sky in the north. She said coldly that warriors should come from the south. We are moving to the north. If we're fast enough, we can reach the White Emperor City before he can find us. We belong to the same fighting union, so the White Emperor City wouldn't just stand and stare. Once we get to the White Emperor City, our problem is solved. Shi Yan smiled and nodded, his face calm, without a trace of worry or fear. Bing Ching Tong and Xuanyu Zhu were surprised inside. Their curiosity towards Shi Yan grew bigger, let alone his second sky realm cultivation base. Although the two of them were the spirit realm warriors, they couldn't help but feel fear as they knew that the malicious warrior coming for them was a third sky realm warrior. They couldn't calm their mind, and their nerves were tense. His realm isn't high, so how could he maintain that calm face? It seemed that the lying disciples of those old monsters weren't ordinary people. His calmness could scare people. The two women were musing, while Shi Yan wasn't hurried or slow. He didn't use the star brilliance and the electric shift, just maintaining an average speed, staying far behind Bing Ching Tong and Xuanyu Zhu. Bing Ching Tong and Xuanyu Zhu were aiding the two daughters that only had the Nirvana realm cultivation base. Bing Chang and Bing Wei had the Sky realm cultivation base, so they could fly alone. Under the hazy moonlight, their white dresses made them look like fairies in a painting. Their bearings were beautiful and elegant, which could mesmerize people's hearts. Staying behind the group of pretty ladies, Shi Yan was observing here and there, his black eyes sparkling like stars. Not bad, they're all precious. No wonder why many warriors want them. If those perverts know that they could oppress the beauties of the Ice Emperor City, of course they wouldn't let them go. Bing Ching Tong and Xuanyu Zhu were mature and elegant. The cold and arrogant aura on their bodies made people unable to control their minds. Their 9 adopted daughters had different features. Some were innocent, some were tender, and the others were strong. Yet they all had a beautiful face with exquisite, graceful bodies. When they gathered, they looked like flowers blooming in a garden. If someone were there, he would be charmed by the different traits of theirs. Although his eyes were wandering among the group of pretty young ladies, they were calm and pure, not having any intention of desire his indifferent face. Xia Xanyan was still imprisoned the Pure Land. With this premise, he hardly had the mood to tease the other flowers. At this moment, he just wished to solve the stuff as soon as possible. Then he would visit the Radiant God cult and borrow their powers to ask the Pure Land release Xia Xanyan. This could protect her soul. Under the clear but cold moonlight, the delegation moved fast, leaving the Ice Emperor City behind. The areas surrounding the Ice Emperor City were ghettos. Snow fell year-round, and the ground was covered by snow permanently. In such circumstances, warriors wouldn't choose to stay there for a long time. Only ones who practiced some special technique could endure the environment to stay. Time flew by. 2 days had passed as fast as a blink of an eye. The moon went down, then rose. Day and night shifted. After 2 days and 1 night of flying, Bing Ching Tong and Xuanyu Zhu weren't afraid of the strenuous travel. However, the 3 young maids at the first sky realm couldn't endure anymore. Their breathing was difficult while they were drenched in sweat. Apparently, they were about to run out of energy. Although the second sky realm and the third sky realm girls didn't show that they couldn't bear it anymore, they had consumed a big part of their profound qi. If they continued moving this way, half a day later, they would have consumed 70% or 80% of their profound qi. Although Shi Yan had only the second sky realm cultivation base, his profound qi was very pure and abundant, much beyond the ordinary warriors. So, he didn't have any trace of exhaustion. There's a lake ahead of us. We'll take a rest there. After everybody recovers, we will go again. Bing Ching Tong turned around to check her daughters, and then said begrudgingly, as they heard about the rest, Those beautiful girls had their spirit pushed up, moving faster towards the lake in the middle of the world of snow and ice. Snow bordered the four sides of the lake. The water was so clear that they could see the lake bottom. However, cold air was thick there, so no fishes could be seen. When the snowflakes fell into the lake, they melted immediately. This lake seemed to be immune from dust. From afar, it looked like a giant mirror as the morning light shone on the lake while sparkling magnificently. A bunch of pretty ladies giggled, coming to wash their faces in the lake, fixing their appearance. The cold water of the lake helped reduce their tiredness. Bing Ching Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu didn't join them as they were watching around with caution, not relaxing for a moment. Shi Yan strode forward, taking in a deep breath of fresh but cold air. He talked to the two women. How could you live like that for many years? I can see that you guys are very familiar with running away. Don't tell me that there are always strong, pervert warriors who come to the Ice Emperor City to harm you? This group of young maids wasn't fluttered along the way while running. Obviously, they had gotten used to it, and this wasn't the first time they had such an experience. This surprised Shi Yan a lot. Bing Ching Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu put on a face that was even colder. They snorted but didn't answer him. Ah, it's true that you often run away for your lives? Shi Yan was astounded. This Ice Emperor City is situated in the far east of the divine Great Land, in a poor area. Besides you guys, to the strong warriors, nothing else is worth their efforts. It seems the beauties are always the big attractions. Haha, with you guys, my days would pass with thrill. Chapter 508. Good Root, Good Fruits. Chapter 508. Good Root, Good Fruits. Bing Ching Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu had their face solemn, looking at him coldly. Do you think it's interesting? Shuang Yu Zhu snorted. If the perverts like you weren't as many as fishes in the river, how could we have to endure so many troubles like that? We don't rely on other people, but only this poor land to cultivate. It's unavoidable that the strong warriors have laid their eyes on us. Why you, a junior, want to laugh at us too? Shi Yan felt embarrassed. Ah, I didn't mean that. I just said casually. In the world where the stronger is the king, women are always falling into the disadvantaged situation. The ice jade technique, where cultivating has some special requirements. We have to stay virgin, and we can't use our beauty as a weapon. This stirs up many men. Since the very beginning, we've been walking on a rough cultivation path. Bing Ching Tong sighed, her eyes complicated. She shook her head and told him reluctantly, I know your manners aren't bad. Otherwise, you wouldn't just simply ask for the cold chalcedony. My sisters, the second and the third, aren't bad. They just want to compete with me. They were discontented when our mother ordained me as the master of the Ice Emperor City. In fact, my second and third sisters are miserable. We're all orphans. Without our adoptive mother, we would have ended up in some brothel. Having heard her share their life experiences, Shi Yan became more embarrassed. He didn't know what to say to save this situation. Our fate isn't as good as yours. You have a good teacher and a strong background. Your road of cultivation is clear. Your master has wiped off all the obstacles for you. As Bing Ching Tong assumed that he was the disciple of some old monsters, so she was talking with a bitter tone that revealed her envy. I'm always on my own. It's just my fate is a bit better. Shi Yan beamed a wry smile. Obviously, Bing Ching Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu didn't believe him. They pouted their lips, but didn't say anything. From their point of views, if it weren't because of the strong background Shi Yan had with only his efforts, he could have never entered the sky realm, let alone having the ice-cold flame and the earth flame at the same time. Even if Shi Yan explained to them, they would think that he had concealed something about his master. Sure, Yan didn't explain further. Mothers, you don't want to wash up? Bing Wei said tenderly, coming forward from the lake. Her phoenix eyes squinted, observing Shi Yan with curiosity. When they were in the snow mountain range, she thought that Shuryen was just a random guy who had strong powers. Unexpectedly, after they had returned to the Ice Emperor City, she got to know from her mother that this man had the ice-cold flame and another type of hot heaven flame. This scared her a lot, as she realized that there was a layer of mystery covering him. In fact, these women from the Ice Emperor City didn't contact people from outside. Their friends were all female. Young men with extraordinary features like Shuryen rarely appeared in the Ice Emperor City. Thus, these young ladies were eyeing Shuryen with surprise. No need. You guys should restore your energies, and we shall leave soon. Don't waste time here, Bing Qingtong shouted. Bing Wei tucked her tongue out, but didn't come forward anymore. She then sat by the lake, closing her eyes to meditate. Changjia, is that man from the endless sea? Shuang Yuzhu's daughter, Shuangzi muttered, looking at Shuryen from afar. I think he isn't a barbarian. His build isn't bad, strong and majestic. A man like him should have some fame in the Pure Land or the Radiant God cult, right? He said he came from the endless sea, Bing Chong snorted inside. But we can't believe his words. He has the Ning family's devouring gold silkworm. I heard that Ning Zhe was killed inside the dark magnetic noxious mist. I doubt that this man had done the murder. Hey, I also heard that there's an old monster in the dark magnetic noxious mist. Perhaps he's the lying disciple of that old man. Shuangzi's eyes brightened as she nodded gently. Sure it is. Ning Zhe the pervert got killed. Excellent. I heard that Ning Zhe longed for marrying Aya. It's unexpected that he met a tragic event. This man is tough indeed. The other girls around heard that Shuryen might have killed Ning Zhe, so they all showed their interest in the story, sneaking looks at Shuryen and discussing boisterously in low tones. However, right at this moment, Bing Qingtong's countenance changed. She shot up from her seat, looking at a precipitous mountain which had many green big trees. Did Shuang Yuzhu also stood up quietly. A strong warrior's over there, Bing Qingtong said with a serious face. Is that him? Shuang Yuzhu felt chilled. She turned to the other girls. All stay alert. No, not him. Bing Qingtong shook her head. Third sister and second sister aren't here. I can sense the aura of the banner family of the White Emperor City. That isn't a third sky of spirit realm warrior. He has only the second sky of spirit realm cultivation base. He should be one of the banners. Shuang Yuzhu relaxed her tense nerves on hearing that the banner family in the White Emperor City is also a strong force. I heard that the head of the banners and the city master of the War Emperor City are sworn brothers. The banners, and we belong to the fighting union. He won't trouble us. If he's from the banner family, we don't need to hurry. Here he comes. Bing Qingtong contemplated and then closed her eyes. Abruptly, she let out a breath and then beamed a faint smile. Should be Bei Si of the banners. Although this guy's arrogant, he knows the rules and respects justice. I've met him sometimes. It shouldn't be a problem. It's a bit strange. This banner family has 2 strong warriors for each generation. Bei Di and Bei Si are one pair, and Lao Li and Lao Luan form the other pair. Shuang Yuzhu wore a cheerful smile. Bei Di is the head of the house, and Bei Si's the same. The latest successors of the banners are Lao Li and Lao Luan. The banner family's combined assault technique is famous in the fighting union. Once that pair of brothers joins hands, their power is tremendous. I think their combined assault technique has something special. In each generation, there are always 2 brothers with the same abilities in all aspects. Lao Li Lao Luan. Sure, Yin shook his head and couldn't hold his smile. This world was small enough. He didn't expect that he would meet the members of Lao Li and Lao Luan's family soon after he had visited the divine Great Land. When they split up in the dark, magnetic, noxious mist, these 2 brothers asked him to visit them so as they could host him well. The two brothers had appreciated him a lot. Without Shi Yan's protection, they would have died inside the dark, magnetic, noxious mist. While Shi Yan was still thinking, a sturdy middle-aged man that looked similar to the Lao brothers appeared from behind the mountain. He walked in the void, taking each step toward Bing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu. He mocked. "Oh, is it the city master of the Ice Emperor City? How are you doing? Having troubles again?" Seemed like it wasn't the first time the Ice Emperor City had encountered this kind of danger. Even the strong warriors of the White Emperor City knew it. Bing Tong didn't deny, and just gave him a forced smile. "There's a third sky of spirit realm warrior about to visit our city. I know I can hardly resist that sort of force. I only can bring my girls to avoid the trouble. Bei Si, are you here to check the mine?" "Yeah." Bei Si's eyes glared at Bing Tong's body. He couldn't help but frown. "A third sky of sky realm warrior. Haha, the trouble you have this time isn't small. I think you guys should go now. Such a high-level warrior chasing after you. If you don't go with all of your force, once he finds you, you should be dead or badly hurt." Apparently, Bei Si didn't intend to help them. He had no relationship with Bing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu, and his realm was just the second sky of spirit realm. He understood well that he could only lose his face fighting against a third sky of spirit realm warrior. Thus, he had to decide that way. Bing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu had hoped that he would help them since they were from the same fighting union. But looking at Bei Si's manners, the two women grimaced inside as they knew that they couldn't force the other. They should only count on themselves. Precursor Bei Si. Right at that moment, Shi Yan suddenly stepped forward, smiled, and clasped his fist to greet Bei Si. Bei Si was surprised, looking at him unknowingly. "Kid, who are you?" "Precursor Bei Si. Are Lao Li and Lao Luan doing well?" Shi Yan asked naturally. "You know my nephews?" Bei Si was astounded, his face strange. He then shifted his look to the young man. "I'm Shi Yan. Have Lao Li and Lao Luan ever mentioned me?" "Shi Yan." Bei Si was shaken. Divine light shot out from his eyes as he said excitedly, "Are you that Shi Yan? The one who saved my two nephews in the dark, magnetic, noxious mist?" "Haha, besides the ones who were involved in it, who could know it clearly." "Haha, not bad. You're Shi Yan." Bei Si laughed cheerily. "Come with me to the banners. I'm going to hold a welcome feast for you. My two nephews always talk about you. They're afraid that you dislike our family and don't want to be the banner's guest." Bei Si was really warm. Bing Tong, Shuang Yuzhu, and the others' girls were dumbfounded. What was going on? Bei Si was arrogant. He didn't even put the city master of the White Emperor City in his eyes, and had never been that warm and polite to anyone. This kid had just arrived here. But why did Bei Si get stirred up on listening to him? "Ah, I'm going with the Ice Emperor City's city master. We have some problems to deal with. After that, I'll visit the Banner family." Sure, Yan shook his head, giving the other a denying smile. Troubles. Bei Si was bewildered for a while before he could react. "That third sky of spirit realm warrior has something to do with you?" "He comes for me. Don't get involved with the Ice Emperor City's business. Let's go to the banners with me. Even if he's a third sky of spirit realm warrior, when our brothers join hands, we aren't afraid of him. Let the banners take care of it." Bei Si was hesitant for a short while before he spoke up frankly without furrowing his brows. Shi Yan's eyes brightened. Bei Si and his nephews were frank and straightforward. They belonged to the kind of people that would repay the favor even if they had to encounter the stronger enemy. This surprised Shi Yan. Bing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu appeared dazed. A third sky of spirit realm warrior wasn't a joke. Even if the Banner brothers joined hands, they couldn't gain the upper hand. For a young man whom he had never met before, this guy could use all his strength and resources. What noble position did that kid Shi Yan have? Was it worth the banners to lend him a hand? Precursor Bay C, you're too polite. I can handle it. You guys don't need to worry about me. Shiryan cracked a smile. After he had uttered, everybody was dumbstruck, looking at him as if they were observing a monster. Unprecedented arrogance. Chapter 509. Put forth. Chapter 509. Put forth. Kid, are you sure? Bei Si had a frown, his face solemn. Bing Qing Tong, Xuanyu Zhu, and the other girls of the Ice Emperor City were also astounded, looking at him doubtfully. They used to think that Shi Yan would have left them immediately when he had a big support, like Bei Si. There was a third sky of spirit realm warrior who wanted to kill him. Such characters, when they wanted to take action, they usually had a complete plan beforehand. Perhaps that strong warrior had a plan to counter Shi Yan's monster teacher too. The gap between the sky realm and the spirit realm warriors was vast, let alone the third sky of spirit realm. It's okay. I dare to stay, so of course I'm not afraid of him. Shi Yan smiled, looking leisurely at Bing Qing Tong and her people. You know that I'm his target, but you still protect me. Should I value my life more than yours? Don't worry. No matter what happens, I will take it with you guys. The beautiful eyes of Bing Qing Tong and Xuanyu Zhu lit up quietly. This boy had an excellent conduct indeed. Under such circumstances, normal people would only think about saving their lives, as they would put their safety at the priority. Obviously, he could choose not to bother with their matter. Why did he choose to stay? Bing Chang, Bing Wei, Shuang Zi, and the other girls had their eyes sparkling, blooming beautifully. You can leave. We won't blame you. Bing Qing Tong had a strange expression as her mood was complicated. She wanted Shi Yan to stay, but at the same time, she thought that it wasn't right because they had no connection. Sure, Yan didn't need to spend his strength for them. Moreover, the enemy was an intimidating one. It isn't about getting blamed or not. It's my principle and personal integrity. Sure, Yan shook his head. Although I'm not considered a good person, I have a good consciousness. That's the core. If I leave, you will sink into troubles. Even though this thing isn't all about me, his target is me. Your sisters disclosed my whereabouts because of their greed, and you aren't related to that. You don't need to bear anything for them. Core principles. Bing Qing Tong had always maintained her cold and arrogant manner, but after having heard his words, she relaxed. Shi Yan's insistence wasn't it the thing she had preserved for many years? Otherwise, why would she have to stay in the Ice Emperor City? Staying in a poor land, no strong warriors would respect them. Although they had difficulties and their living was more strenuous, they had never violated the vow they took. She had to do so to protect her sister's dignity and purity. As Shi Yan was persistent in talking about his principles with her, he looked a bit unwise. But these things were related to deep inside someone's heart which stored the most touching human disposition. You shouldn't stay. Don't blame us later. Bing Qing Tong was rarely so tender. She smiled at him and nodded in agreement, while she suddenly had a feeling of meeting a long-lost friend. Don't worry. That's my decision. I will bear it all. Nothing's related to you guys. Shi Yan was frank, waving his hand toward Bei Si. Precursor, please return to the Banner family first. After I'm done with this, I'm going to visit the Banners. Haha. Bei Si didn't move. He hesitated for a while and then laughed out loud. It's okay. I can stay, although the other has the third sky of spirit realm. Even in the worst case, I can retreat. From your confidence, I can see that it's okay whether I leave or stay. It's good, though. Sure, Yan had the absolute confidence, and Bei Si didn't worry about himself being involved in their troubles. Wait until this stuff's over. I will come to be your guest. We should drink and enjoy ourselves. Kid, you're a frank and generous person. I like you. Bei Si applauded joyfully. Everybody should restore your strength. After we're done, we'll depart immediately. Shuang Yuzhu made up her mind on seeing the changing situation. She advised the other girls. Bing Chang, Bing Wei, and the others were a smiling face, throwing their glance at Shi Yan strangely. Some brave girls even tried to seduce him discreetly, batting their long eyelashes to attract his attention. These girls always had a cold aura on their bodies. Now, as they were smiling, it was hard to resist. Even Shi Yan had his eyes brightened. Listening to Shuang Yuzhu's order, the girls of the Ice Emperor City sat down at the lake again, closing their eyes to restore their strength. They gradually quieted down. Shi Yan wasn't hurried either. He took out one high-quality essence chi crystal, found a place to sit down, and used the energy inside to supplement his chi. Bei Si didn't leave. He sat down next to Shi Yan, eyeing the young man with an excited, smiling face. It seemed that he wanted to see what kind of person Shi Yan was. After Lao Li and Lao Luan had come back to the Banner family, they shared their experience in the dark, magnetic, noxious mist. There weren't many persons that this pair of brothers admired in the White Emperor City. But after they came back, they idolized Shi Yan, saying that none of the youth of the divine great land couldn't be compared to him, a young man with a will of steel, upright and loyal manners, and someone absolutely worth being a deep-rooted friend. As Bei Si had heard all that from the Lao brothers, he had been interested in Shi Yan. However, he didn't really believe that Shi Yan could be so excellent. He was still suspicious. Today, he'd seen Shi Yan's conduct. Now, he had to wait a little bit longer to check out the young man's competence. 1 hour later, after all of them had recovered, they continued their trip to the White Emperor City. However, after a couple hundred li, Bei Si darkened his face. Seems like that strong warrior is coming. Everyone was startled. Following Bei Si's line of sight, they all changed their visage. Roughly 10 li ahead of them was a vast, dense forest. Big, old trees jutted up to the sky, towering the area. Demonic beasts flashed on and off. This area belonged to the White Emperor. At this moment, thick gray clouds were covering the dense forest. Those clusters of gray cloud were like a curtain, covering 1/3 of the area. The forest underneath was quiet, without even a chirp, and were seeming almost scary. This gave people a feeling that something wrong was happening. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu exchanged looks. They took a deep breath, with their countenances extremely solemn. Did you sense the aura of second and third sisters? Shuang Yuzhu sensed for a while, releasing her soul consciousness to check. She couldn't hide her fear, as a light flashed from her eyes. Ah! Bing Qing Tong shook her head. She couldn't send her soul consciousness through the forest. Certainly, that man has covered their auras. If he has the third sky of spirit realm cultivation base and uses his soul consciousness to cover our sisters' auras, we can't find it. Shuang Yuzhu's eyes changed. She kept silent, watching over the land ahead of them with caution. You guys, do you want to go there? Bei Si was hesitant. The opponent has blocked the way ahead, so he must have guessed that you would take this way. Even if you return, he can still hunt you down. With his realm, of course, his speed's faster than ours. Moreover, you have some juniors here. We can't avoid him. Everybody knew they should avoid the opponent, but how? If they had only Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu here, when they found something abnormal, they would have returned at max speed. Risking their lives and using the secret technique, they should have a big chance to survive. But today, there weren't only the two of them. Although they knew that they couldn't avoid, they didn't dare to decide. As the opponent was covering 1/3 of the forest, apparently he had a complete plan. If they entered the place recklessly, they could meet some barriers. At that time, they would have no way to hide or flee. Everybody stopped there, thinking about how to solve this situation. Waiting was also a method. If the opponent couldn't be patient and came out from the forest first, Even if they would lose the battle, the consequences wouldn't be so bad. Perhaps some of them could return alive. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu decided to wait for the opponent to get out of the forest. Ha ha ha! A cold, gloomy laugh reverberated through the forest. As it was echoing everywhere, people couldn't detect the source of the laughter. Well, I've been waiting for you for an hour. Finally, you've come. None of you will escape my hands. Yu Liming's voice was deep and sinister, coming from the forest. Second sister, third sister, are you there? Bing Qing Tong wore a cold face, shouted, "Djia." Han Shui and Lung Danqing regarded her, their tones full of bitterness. Seemed like they were bullied. Hearing the two answer her, Bing Qing Tong could ease her mind a bit. Musing for a while, she probed, "I would like to know who the hotshot is in the forest? You're waiting for us here to do what? Our Ice Emperor City doesn't compete for power. I think we didn't cause any grudge against you. Why do you want to force us to death? I'm coming here this time, isn't it because of you?" Yu Liming laughed evilly. "Hand that kid to me. After I am done with him, we can have fun for a while. I'm very interested in you guys. Well, maybe I can enlighten you or give you some good stuff. He's the distinguished guest of our Ice Emperor City. I wonder how he has caused resentment with you?" Bing Qing Tong frowned. "City Master Bing, you don't need to be wordy with me. Everybody here is sensible. Give me the man and I'll let you go. If you don't comply, haha, you know the consequences." Yu Liming laughed coldly. His tone showed that his patience was draining. "Don't waste my time. I have come here this time, so I won't go back empty-handed. Shi Yan's the line disciple of a respectable hotshot. You dare to take action against him. Have you ever considered the consequences?" Bing Qing Tong threatened him with solemn complexion. "Ha! What about that hotshot? He didn't come here personally. I'll kill that kid and break the soul seal. How will he find me?" Yu Liming wasn't afraid of her threat. "This old man's always alone. I move a lot, and I don't have a permanent residence. This divine great land is vast enough. I just need to find a place and stay in seclusion. Even if he spends 100 years, he won't be able to find me. After 100 years, perhaps this old man could reach the true God realm too. At that moment, should I be afraid of him? What's about 100 years of waiting? You aren't afraid of trouble, so should I be?" Sure, Yen wasn't patient enough to listen to the old man. He cracked a smile, strode to the forest, and pitched his voice. "Hey, old black turtle. It's okay you won't come out, I'm getting there. I want to see what you have to capture me." Bei Si, Bing Qing Tong, and Shuang Yu Zhu had a surprised face. They hadn't even reacted before they saw Shi Yan dashing forward like lightning, robustly shooting into the forest. Chapter 510, Vanish Mind Smoke. Chapter 510, Vanish Mind Smoke. Shi Yan strode into the forest. While Bei Si and the others were frightened, they stood dumbstruck, not knowing what the young man was thinking. The opponent hidden in the forest should have his preparation done. At first glance at the gray cloud above the place, the third sky of Spirit Realm Cultivation Base, and the advantageous position their opponent had readied into, they knew the result of this battle even before it happened. What was he thinking? Sacrificing himself for the others. Bei Si, Bing Qing Tong, and Shuang Yu Zhu couldn't figure out the reason why Shi Yan didn't wait until that guy came out to fight with him outside. He shouldn't have entered the enemy's territory. Wasn't it suicide? "You should stay away. Get out of here as fast as possible. Take the road around the White Emperor and never stop midway." Bing Qing Tong was bewildered for 3 seconds. After that, she woke up immediately, turning around and advising Bing Chong's group, asking them to dash. The possibility to win this fight was tiny. Even if she didn't go there for Shi Yan, she needed to check if Han Shui and Lung Danqing were all right. They were her sisters. They could be unkind, but she couldn't betray her upright justice. She still remembered the last words of her adoptive mother when she asked her to be the big sister and take care of her younger sisters. You know the location of the Banner family? You should go there for shelter. Tell them I told you to. I'll send the message. My brother will protect you girls, Bei Si frowned. Not only because of the relationship with the Ice Emperor City, but also the favor that kid did to us. You should keep in mind that I'm involved in this mess because of Shi Yan. Thank you. Bing Qing Tong slightly bent her body and thanked the other with a sincere expression. Her face switched to the cold visage immediately when she turned to Bing Qing's group. Why you're still there? Go. Bing Chong and the others weren't idiotic. They knew that they couldn't help by staying here. On the contrary, they could hold the others back. The group of these young maidens put on a determined face and took the road around the city, fleeing away at their fastest speed. Waiting until their adopted daughters disappeared, Bing Qing Tong took a deep breath and then jumped into the forest, with Shuangyu Zhu following behind her. Bei Si stayed behind alone. He hesitated for a while and then sighed, made up his mind, and then jumped into the forest. Inside the thick forest, the dark cloud covered the sky, letting no beam of sunlight pierce through. The place was strangely tranquil. All beasts had hidden away, and the ambience was bizarre. A giant, extremely ugly toad was sitting on a dry dune, keeping its bulging eyes open while looking forward. Its body was swollen with bubbles, as disgusting liquid oozed out from the pimples on its entire body. At first glance, everyone knew that this was an extremely toxic animal. Yu Li Ming was smiling fiendishly while sitting on the toad. His face was sinister, his eyes rolling, giving people a dizzy feeling that they couldn't focus well. Han Shui and Lung Danqing stood next to the toad, each taking a side. They wore a begging face, bending their head lower and not showing anything from their countenance. Both of them understood that even if they won this battle, they couldn't keep their purity and had to stay with that old man. Yu Li Ming was obscene, but his threat was so frightening when he said that even if they died, he wouldn't spare their dead bodies. Han Shui and Lung Danqing had no possible plan, so they had to make their plan at each step. Quite on the contrary, Shi Yan was calm as usual. He was like he was taking a walk in the forest. He strolled to the toad, squinted, and then lifted his head to look at Yu Li Ming. Are you that old dog? Your mouth makes people hate you. Soon, I will shove poison down your throat. Taste the poison, kid. Ha! Yu Li Ming grinned continually. The old man didn't hurry to take action and kill the kid instantly. He needed to wait for Bing Qing Tong and Shuangyu Zhu to come in. Indeed, not long after that, the two noble, elegant women came. Yu Li Ming's lewd eyes brightened, as he couldn't help but laugh out loud, clapping his hands. Good, good. It's worth my time this time. I didn't expect that the 4 snowflakes of the Ice Emperor City will belong to me today. My trip is interesting indeed. What do you want? Bing Qing Tong's face was cold. Her aura was elegant, but her complexion was as cold as steel and ice. The Ice Emperor City is one of the members of the Fighting Union. If you have the guts to fight us, the Fighting Union won't let you go. The Fighting Union's excellent. Too bad I'm all alone, and I don't have a permanent residence. If the Fighting Union wants to kill me, it has to find me first. Haha, you say. Would I give the Fighting Union that chance? Yu Li Ming shook his head and faked a sigh. Women are always women. You're so naive that make people love you. But don't worry, I'm kind. I won't kill you. Of course, the premise is that you have to please me. Haha, as long as I'm pleased, anything can be discussed. Bing Qing Tong didn't want to talk more. She knew that threatening was no use to this old man. She kept silent, looking at Han Shui and Lung Danqing. Under her look, Han Shui and Lung Danqing were panicked and disorderly. They didn't dare to confront her gaze as they felt shame inside. At this moment, Bei Si arrived as well. At first glance, he said with a darkened face, "Well, turns out you're the distinguished guest of the Ning family. I remember that Ning, Du Quan had fought with you in the miasma cloud wetland. Although both of you practiced the poisonous technique, you aren't his match. You guys had a tied result, and then you started to stay in the miasma cloud wetland. Is that you?" "Who are you?" Yu Liming squinted, coldly assessing Bei Si. "Bei Si of the Banners." "Bei Si." Yu Liming's eyes flickered. His heart dreaded as his visage didn't look as natural as usual. Then the old man closed his eyes, releasing his soul consciousness. The miasma cloud wetland and the White Emperor City weren't far from each other. He had heard about Bei Si and his brother before, and he understood well the power of their combined assault technique that could defeat the third sky of spirit realm warriors. Anyway, even if Bing Qing Tong and Han Shui had the second sky of spirit realm cultivation base, they didn't know the combine assault technique. That comforted his mind a bit. But if they were the two Banner brothers, it would be different. Once this duo joined hands, they would become a force that could threaten him seriously. He had to be careful. As his soul consciousness was released, he could sense things around hundreds of li suddenly. Yu Liming smiled. "Well, turns out you're Bei Si of the Banners. Not bad, fella. Anyway, too bad that it's only you here. If your brother were here too, this old man would be afraid. Well, since you got only yourself here, haha, don't do things that can make you lose your face." Bei Si just laughed and didn't answer him. The reason why he came here was just to see if he could have a chance to rescue Shi Yan in time. He didn't want to risk his life against Yu Liming. If the situation turned to be the extreme, at least he could leave the scene alone safely. He had this confidence. Thus, he was just standing there to watch the play with an indifferent complexion. "You have nothing to do with this. I'm not interested in risking my life against you Banners. If you leave now, I won't be bothered." As Yu Liming saw Bei Si's idle calm, he was secretly alert, since he didn't know what the other had. Thus, the poisonous man didn't want to mess with Bei Si. "I've passed here by chance. Well, I just want to see your deeds. I don't want to interfere. You can do what you want. I'm just standing here and watching. Ignore me if you will." Bei Si smiled and took a step backward, indicating that he wasn't going to get involved. Yu Liming smiled coldly, harumph. He used his soul consciousness to sense again. This time he confirmed that he could find only Bei Si here. The old man nodded. "You should be honest. Otherwise, no matter who you are, I'm not showing any mercy." "Why are you talking so much?" Shi Yan said with an impatient countenance, urging him. "Old dog, are you done yet?" Yu Liming put on a ferocious face, grinned to his ears, and jumped off his toad all of a sudden. He opened his mouth and spurted a purple beam of light, shooting toward the horizon. The gray cloud covering the forest got hit, and it seemed that the purple light had dissolved some barrier in there. Dew started to drip down from the clouds. Each drop of this kind of dew seemed to contain poison, piercing through the leaves and peeling off the barks. The atmosphere quieted down immediately. "It's toxic." Bing Qing Tong let out a low shout. Light rippled out from her jade-white hand as the ice stone sparkled, expanding from her hand to defend against the poisonous dew. Xuan Yu Zhu acted the same. She activated her ice jade technique, and snowflakes fluttered, covering her appealing body. Bei Si was calm, lifting his head to look at the gray ash cloud. A ruthless aura emitted from his body, creating an invisible shield and separating the poisonous water. Shi Yan urged his dark light shield. Da-da. When the toxic dew hit his dark light shield, the shield he had condensed from his profound qi was soon eroded. The toxic dew then turned into poisonous gray steam, meandering in the air. The negative feelings deep inside his heart started to stir, expanding along with that poison, discreetly affecting his soul and spirit. This generated the evil thought of destroying all creatures in his head. Not good. Shaking inside, Shi Yan suddenly reacted. Although this water could erode things, it wasn't its best feature. The poisonous water diffused the smoke, which was the main killing weapon. He hadn't touched anything, and the toxic hadn't got to his body through his skin yet. But still, it could stir up the evil thought in his mind. The toxic smoke could enter his soul and spirit. My vanished mind, smoke aims for the spirit and soul. It can draw the evil things in your hearts. As long as you have 7 emotions and 6 desires, you will lose your mind sooner or later. Sinister intentions will be born, and in the end I will seize your mind. Except for the true God realm warriors who have the divine soul, all creatures will be affected. Yu Liming laughed contentedly. I can also use the secret technique to rouse any desire of your 7 emotions and 6 desires to the acme. It will enable you to do things you don't even dare to think about it in daily life. Interesting, huh? I want to see you get aroused to the peak. The more you resist, the stronger the backlash is. Taste it. As he finished, it seemed a strong soul consciousness intent domain was poured into the gray mist. Under this sort of intent domain, the vanished mind smoke gained some mysterious energies as it could stir up the passion concealed at the bottom of people's hearts. Seems like I have to subdue you sooner. Shi Yan took a deep breath and grinned fiendishly. His finger stroked the blood vein ring, sending through his thought. Chapter 511. Frequency of Murderous Skills. Chapter 511. Frequency of Murderous Skills. The war devil hiding inside the blood vein ring received his thought and immediately shot out of the ring. The black iron body stood out with different light, separating it from the gloomy forest, which shocked all people present. Poisonous dew falling from the sky caused no harm to the war devil. An evil, murderous aura that could destroy the heaven and earth blasted out from the war devil. All of a sudden, the whole forest seemed to shiver. Kill him. Shi Yan smiled coldly, then pointed at Yu Liming and delivered his order. The war devil flew out. A bunch of dark light shot out from its mouth. That strange light expanded in the air, creating a tremendous suction force that seemed to be able to swallow everything. The foliage in the forest was eroded due to the erosive water. Under the strong force of the bizarre dark light, they were uprooted and dragged into that strange hole. A black hole that could devour everything. Under the effect of this sinister energy, all the warriors in the forest paled, as they could sense the evil energy rippling from that black hole. The formidable black hole faced Yu Liming. From the opposite side, the old man jumped off his toad. However, he found his inside body was disorderly when he hadn't had time to use his technique. The profound qi in his body was like someone was dragging it out of him with a strong force. He even had the feeling that he couldn't control anything anymore. The black hole struck toward Yu Liming, but the war devil didn't cease his attack just yet. He was dashing forward like a heavy black mountain. The puppet reached Yu Liming in just a flash, using the wildest, strongest attacks to bombard the other. Although the war devil was just a dark body of Lao Luo, it had inherited the powers of its master. Not only did it understand well how to utilize the power of the black hole, it also knew various kinds of strange, true intents and powers. Once it activated, the surrounding light was covered by the darkness gushing out from its body, with the earth-shaking, iniquitous power. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The war devil was as fast as lightning. Wicked power continually diffused from its body, which frightened everyone. Those energies then condensed into a dark light column and turned into a dark claw, snatching down on Yu Liming and attempting to smash him. Yu Liming was good at his significant poisonous technique. Numerous colored toxic gases diffused his body, weaving into waves of toxic mist. He was using this poisonous barrier to defend and gather strength to launch the attack. Unfortunately, the war devil was a black iron puppet with black armor. It didn't have flesh or blood. Basically, this puppet wasn't afraid of any kinds of poison. The toxic mist Yu Liming had released was extremely dangerous to creatures with a flesh body. However, it was old-fashioned to the war devil. This sort of poison attack couldn't disorder the rhythm of the war devil's attack. The old man retreated in failure, his face distressed. As they were under the effects of the vanished mind smoke, Bing Qing Tong, Shuang Yu Zhu, and Bei Si were struggling to resist the desires deep in their hearts. All of a sudden, they saw Shi Yan shout as a monster appeared in the forest. That monster was aiming at Yu Liming. It could trouble Yu Liming much and dissolve all kinds of poison attacks of his. At this moment, Bing Qing Tong and the other two were shocked, looking at the young man. Shi Yan stood firmly like a stone on the ground. He coldly looked at Yu Liming, then grinned. "Want to kill me? Eh? You're not capable." From the war devil's vigorous attack and its different, beautiful moves, people understood that this was purely a fighting puppet which was invulnerable, unafraid of any kind of poison attacks. It had the strong, wild power which could be adjusted to fit with the situation of the battle. If Shi Yan didn't know that the war devil was just a dark clone, he would have thought that the other was an amazing warrior with great intelligence. Bite him to death! Yu Liming was struggling, spurting out a bunch of lights. In the void, that light condensed into a chunk with chaotic, trembling energy. The war devil had struck the gray cloud into small pieces. Under the old man's power, those little pieces started to press down, turning into many patterns of toxic insects on an evocation banner. The evocation banner fluttered with the wind. People then saw many poisonous insects and animal roaring and howling as they were covering the sky and swarming toward Shi Yan. Yu Liming understood well that once Shi Yan got killed, this black iron puppet would have no master, and it would stop attacking him. So, it was wise to kill Shi Yan first. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! The old man's toad received his order and moved suddenly. The bubbles all over its body oozed out a disgusting green liquid as it released a heavy cry and jumped toward Shi Yan. The toad opened its giant mouth, spraying out a green smoke. In the vague mist, they could see the deep green poison. Ha! Shi Yan smiled, but didn't step backward. He stroked the blood vein ring again and shouted, "Show yourself!" The king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm flew out, turning into two strange lights and shooting towards the toad. The king of demonic insects was a level 8 beast, which was extremely dangerous. Although that toad with its giant volume was also a level 8 beast, it seemed to be afraid of the king of demonic insects. The king of demonic insects turned into a dot of light, getting to the back of the toad instantly and bit it. The devouring gold silkworm sprayed out gold beams of light, weaving in the void like a spider making its net. When those countless insects got near Shi Yan, they were trapped in the net while screaming mournfully. The web cut off their bodies in an instant. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu seized the chance and flew out, shooting hundreds of radiating ice beams, showering like arrows toward Yu Liming. Ice jade technique condensed the ice beams around 5 or 6 meters long, as big as a log in the forest. These beams were exceptionally sharp. On the ground, the war devil was chasing after Yu Liming, who seemed very distressed. Under the ice beam shower, he was clamped as he cursed SL*TS continually. His eyes were dark and gloomy, as if he had almost gone crazy. Second sister, third sister, whatever this old monster agreed with you, at this moment, you can't be on the same side as him. Bing Qing Tong's jade-like, Hands constantly made hand imprints to condense the sparkling ice. The temperature in the forest started to decrease as frost appeared on the frozen greenery. Ice covered the whole forest. Shuang Yuzhu also released the deep cold air, forming white strand energy that spread in the forest, freezing everything. Han Shui and Lung Danqing were dumbfounded, looking at Shi Yan with great fear in their eyes as they were stunned by Shi Yan's attack and didn't have the time to react. Having heard Bing Qing Tong's words, Han Shui and Lung Danqing trembled, waking from their dizziness. Second sister, third sister, this old monster's wickedly cunning. You can't earn any profit doing business with him. As he's surrounded today, we should unite and kill him. As long as he dies or is wounded, we can have peace. Bing Qing Tong advised sincerely. They used to think that this was an unfair battle, which was inclined to the old monster, and that Shi Yan would die instantly. However, they had never thought that Shi Yan's attack was that exaggerating and frightening. The war devil alone was enough to back Yu Li Ming into the corner. His poisonous technique was useless this time, as he was troubled much by the war devil. Basically, he didn't have any time and strength to deal with the women. Yu Li Ming released the toxic insects in an attempt to deal with Shi Yan, but he didn't expect that besides the war devil, Shi Yan still had other methods. The king of demonic insects from the young man had broken his attack, ceasing its desired effects. At this moment, Yu Li Ming was close to defeat. In the forest, at this moment, Han Shui and Lung Danqing's decision became an important factor. If they united and dealt with the stranger, Yu Li Ming would be doomed this time. But if Han Shui and Lung Danqing chose to assist Yu Li Ming, it was still soon to say which side would claim the victory. Anyway, Han Shui had the second sky of Spirit Realm Cultivation Base, and Lung Danqing had the first sky of Spirit Realm Cultivation Base. So, they were capable of stopping Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu. Bing Qing Tong had advised them wholeheartedly in the hope that Han Shui and Lung Danqing wouldn't make a crazy decision. Sure, Yen stood at his spot, not moving at all. He cracked a smile, looking at Han Shui and Lung Danqing, his eyes showing his disdain. He hadn't used all of his abilities yet. The ghost hunter stayed in the ring, and he didn't fuse the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the Holy Spirit God to get their combined power. In case Han Shui and Lung Danqing were stubborn, he still had the way to force them into giving up. Thus, he wasn't worried. Moreover, Base C was here who hadn't taken any action yet. Not far from there, Base C was watching him with a divine light twinkling in his eyes. He was totally surprised. Shi Yan's continuous actions not only shook Bing Qing Tong, but also helped Bei Si recognize the young man's competence. At this moment, Bei Si believed a part of what Lao Li and Lao Luan had told him. This Shi Yan's the most dangerous warrior we've ever met. You will never know how many secrets he has. When we assumed that he had used all that he had, he showed us more intimidating power. Compared to any other scary warriors, he can scare them all. Lao Li's and Lao Luan's words played in Bei Si's head as his visage became serious as he made up his mind. Shi Yan, do you need help? Bei Si rose his voice. No need. I can kill him. You can stand there and watch. Don't worry. Shi Yan smiled, raking his look and then stopping right at Han Shui and Lung Danqing. He spoke without any polite manners. You've been hesitant for so long. Are you going to make the decision now? Are you on the same side as the Ice Emperor City, or you want to die together with Yu Li Ming? His words were haughty. However, due to the existence of the War Devil, no one dared to neglect his attitude. Han Shui and Lung Danqing slightly shivered, their faces pale. Looking at Shi Yan, Han Shui shook her head in distress. She let out a sigh. I'm from the Ice Emperor City, so of course, I'm on the Ice Emperor City side. However, when we were getting here, we were poisoned. You are poisoned? Bing Ching Tong shouted in fear. A poison that can oppress the sea of consciousness. It restrains us from releasing the soul consciousness. If we can't solve it, our sea of consciousness will break and our souls will disperse. That way, we will never have a chance to reincarnate. Lung Danqing paled, lowering her head in shame. She didn't say anything as she was so embarrassed. You can't fight. Bing Ching Tong reacted. Yes, Han Shui and Lung Danqing nodded. If we urge our power, that poison will expand faster. Currently, we aren't much different from ordinary people. We don't dare to urge our powers. So that's the case, Bing Ching Tong mused for a while. You guys stand here and don't move. Don't try to use your power. You don't need to worry about this battle. Then Bing Ching Tong flew towards Li Ming and shouted coldly, Old freak, give me the antidote. Chapter 512, The Withering Death. Chapter 512, The Withering Death. Women's hearts. Shi Yan snorted, coldly looking at Bing Ching Tong chasing after Yu Li Ming, and exhorted sarcastically. Han Shui and Lung Danqing always went against her in the Ice Emperor. They even wanted to borrow the power of the Ning family to replace her. They were so cunning and cruel. If he were her, he would have found all the ways he could to eradicate these two threats. Unexpectedly, Bing Ching Tong wanted to help them. This made him disdain her. Keep an eye on them, please. I want to go there, too. Shuang Yuzhu mused, then asked Shi Yan before flying after her sister. Han Shui and Lung Danqing bent their heads in shame on seeing the other two women chasing after the old freak for their well-being. They didn't dare to say a word. Shi Yan shook his head, ridiculing. Well, it's the sister bond, huh? It touched me, but I don't understand it. You too, as you've turned everything into this mess, are you satisfied now? Han Shui and Lung Danqing kept their mouths shut. Their face reddened. Sure, Yan didn't talk with them more. Ding dong, ding dong. Suddenly, a clear bell ring came over from the forest, carrying some sort of fluctuating power. At that time, when the devouring gold silkworm heard the bell, it froze bewilderedly in the middle of the air. It then flew towards the source of the bell, just like the silkworm's master was summoning it. The Ning family's insect's bell. Bei Si frowned, couldn't help but look towards the general direction of the bell's sound. It's Ning Qi Shan, the master of taming the devouring gold silkworm, a first sky of spirit realm warrior. The Ning family and the Banner family weren't too far from each other. Bei Si was familiar with the Nings. As he heard the bell, he immediately knew who was the man behind the sound. He instantly warned the others. Shi Yan wore a cold face, snorted, and then grinned. Want to die? While his voice hadn't ceased yet, a giant demonic beast with a ferocious appearance and sharp thorns all over its body appeared in front of Shi Yan. The beast faced up the sky, roaring ear-splittingly. Leaves fell, fluttering disorderly, while the other demonic beasts heard the voice and fled away. Ghost Hunter. Ghost Hunter was a level 8 beast. When it was in the Endless Sea, it had swallowed countless demonic beasts, which advanced its competence massively. The Ghost Hunter was more than 10 meters tall. Just like an evil dragon with a terrifying oppression power, it could be compared with the soul power of a spirit realm warrior. Shi Yan soared up and landed on the Ghost Hunter, while thundering, "Kill!" The Ghost Hunter shot out robustly, wildly striking towards the giant toad, who got the king of demonic insects nibbling it from the inside. When it found the Ghost Hunter, an even more dangerous creature, get near, the toad was so frightened that it wished to run away as fast as possible. The Ghost Hunter had an aura that terrified the toad, just like it was encountering its predator. The giant toad didn't dare to engage in a fight with the beast. When the Ghost Hunter was roaring, the blade-sharp heaven devil Qi overflowed from the big mouth. Layers of devil light were pushed towards the toad. Bam, bam, bam. The toad got hit by the devil light. Its massive body spun in the forest, crushing many trees as if they were smashed by a big hammer, unable to stand firm. The ghost hunter howled, flying towards the toad, using its sharp claws to tear off its thick, rigid body. The ghost hunter opened its bloody mouth and took a big bite of the toad's brain, then started to feast on the whole thing, ripping off the body of the toad. He's eating. The demonic beasts of the underworld and the demon area had an evil, strange nature just like a flood dragon. It ripped the toad off piece by piece and quickly swallowed the brain, leaving a messy pulp of flesh behind. "Catch it!" shouted Shiryen. Ghost Hunter extended its sharp-bladed wings, roaring crazily and dashing towards the general direction of Ning Chi Shan, following the bell ringing. Soon, Shiryen saw his target. It was a middle-aged man with a typical appearance. He was wearing green brocade robes and a small crest on his head. He was crouching, hiding in a thick bush, trying hard to ring the bell in his hand. After the devouring gold silkworm had his immortal blood, it had been evolving fast. Following the bell, the insect slowly came to the middle-aged man. In fact, Ning Chi Shan was really worried. This was the devouring gold silkworm that he had nurtured himself. He understood it well. When the insect bell rang, the devouring gold silkworm should have come back to him with the fastest speed without a bit of hesitation. This devouring gold silkworm had left for a while, and he didn't know what had happened to it that made it go against him. If it weren't that the insect bell was the nemesis of the devouring gold silkworm, perhaps he couldn't have controlled it at all. The insect bell trembled. Ning Chi Shan was hurried, his eyes flickering non-stop as he was observing here and there. Right at that moment, Shiryen, riding on the ghost hunter, appeared in front of his eyes. At the same time, the king of demonic insects hiding in the forest attacked him from behind. "Kid, did you kill Ning Zhe?" When Ning Chi Shan saw Shiryen, he paled and then shouted, "Well, it's true. I killed Ning Zhe, and now I'll kill you too." Shiryen laughed out loud, ordering the ghost hunter to storm forward with negative energies filling the entire body. Shiryen's hands moved to make a hand imprint, putting together the life and death intent domain he had comprehended on it. The death and life seal appeared, as a quiet intent domain furiously covered Ning Chi Shan. Just a sky realm kid wanting to show off the meager skills in front of an expert with intent domain. Want to die. Ning Chi Shan was afraid of Bei Si, but when he saw that it was Shiryen, he couldn't hide his sinister smile. Waving his hand, numerous demonic beasts appeared densely in the sky. Those demonic beasts were as many as a big cloud of grasshoppers, roaring and shrieking. They covered Shiryen in just a blink of an eye. 10,000 poisonous demonic beasts secret. Ning Chi Shan shouted, as a 5-colored miasma diffused from his body, pouring into the bodies of the demonic poisonous beasts that he had created. At first, they were just illusions, but after they got the 5-colored miasma, they all seemed to be revived. Shiryen could even see the tiny details on their bodies. This was a kind of intent domain. Inside this intent domain, numerous poisonous demonic beasts appeared. Each of them was created by the energy and the poison. Although they weren't real beasts, they were even more dangerous. Death. Shiryen slowly closed his eyes, immersing into the death intent domain, his mind like dying dust. Withered plants, old and dying creatures appeared in his sea of consciousness, making it a mirror that reflected so many forms of death in this world. At this moment, he felt like he was the god of death, who could control lives of tens of thousands of creatures. As he was putting his mind into it to comprehend this intent domain, he seemed to forget himself and felt that he was a hollow ghost, cocking his head from above to watch all living things beneath him. His soul consciousness was connected to those creatures. When he cut off the connection, numerous souls would vanish. In the death intent domain, he forgot himself, his whole spirit, chi, and soul immersed in his sea of consciousness. A marvel suddenly revealed around him. Under the death intent domain, the greenery surrounding him withered. Creatures living underground lost their lives. The illusions of demonic beasts Ning Qi Shan had released in the air were shattered one after another, and their energies soon vanished into earth and heaven. Ning Qi Shan's face changed dramatically. He knew he should do something. All of a sudden, he hallucinated himself dying. His face grimaced in fear. The king of demonic insects and the ghost hunter seized the chance and stormed over him. The devouring gold silkworm was faster than the king of demonic insects and ghost hunter. Together with the jingling bell before it died out, the devouring gold silkworm had turned into a gold beam, disappearing into Ning Qi Shan's body. The devouring gold silkworm, the ghost hunter, and the king of demonic insect were three evil creatures. When they joined hands, the consequence Ning Qi Shan had seen in the death intent domain came true. Crack, crack, crack. A sound echoed that rose goosebumps on people's skin in just a fraction of time right before Bing Qing Tong was dismembered. The three evil creatures had ripped him off, and he died tragically on the spot. Shi Yan stood still. He was immersing himself in the death intent domain, unaware of the changes around him. Bei Si came over quietly. At first glance, his visage changed, exclaiming inside. He didn't see what Shi Yan had done, but when he arrived, he found Ning Qi Shan as a pulp of meat. Rustle, rustle. Han Shui and Lung Danqing arrived. Their beautiful eyes stopped at Shi Yan, and they all felt chill running down their spines. He was a killing star. Until this very moment, they knew how intimidating Shi Yan was. Thinking about their evil scheme, they planned to ambush a character like this. The two women felt their hearts frozen inside. Ghost Hunter, the devouring gold silkworm, the king of demonic insects, suddenly flew to Shi Yan. The three ferocious, evil creatures fixed their cruel eyes at Bei Si and the other two. We don't have wicked intention. Don't worry. Don't be tense. Bei Si was frightened. He waved his hands and constantly stepped backward, keeping a safe distance from Shi Yan. He wanted to state clearly that he didn't have any wicked intention, as he was afraid that these three demonic, evil creatures would attack him. Han Shui and Lung Danqing paled. They retreated even further than Bei Si until they could only see Shi Yan from pretty far. These two women were poisoned. At this moment, they weren't different from ordinary people. If the ghost hunter, the devouring gold silkworm, and the king of demonic insects wanted to kill them now, it was as easy as flipping one's hand. That young man seems to stay in his intent domain, and he seems to comprehend something there. Bei Si was surprised. He frowned, looking at Shi Yan, his face strange. Perhaps he's about to break through again in his sky realm. It's the sign of a breakthrough. Once he understands it, he will enter the minor new realm immediately. Han Shui showed her distress. This young man's a real talent. Sai, we're done this time. We've caused deep grudges with him. I don't know how he would treat us when he wakes up. Lung Danqing's face was filled with shame. She didn't know what to say now. Bei Si wanted to say something, but he suddenly found something strange in his body. He sensed, and then his face changed. The vanished mind smoke's effect is still here? Why do I still have? Han Shui couldn't finish her words, her face panic-stricken. Han Shui and Lung Danqing paled. They nodded. That old monster said that the ones who got the vanished mind smoke would have their minds eroded gradually. Then, one of the 7 emotions and 6 desires will burst out. You guys, I remembered he had aroused the... Bei Si was frightened as he asked hurriedly, Is there any solution? Only let it out. Han Shui blushed. Then she spoke faster. You should hurry. This place isn't far from the banners. You still have time to get back home. As Bei Si heard her words, He didn't dare to linger further, running away without leaving any messages. Sister, he got the Vanish Mind smoke too. Lung Danqing suddenly understood something. Her face was ashen, looking in Shi Yan's general direction in fear. She stammered, Our powers are restrained now. What should we do? Chapter 5:13. The Third Sky of Sky Realm. Chapter 5:13. The Third Sky of Sky Realm. Having heard what Lung Danqing said, Han Shui changed her face as she was filled with worry. Since Bei Si was still affected by the Vanish Mind smoke and he had recognized something wrong, he returned to the Banner family at his fastest speed, not daring to linger. It would be easier to release the Vanish Mind smoke at home. Sure, Yen was also poisoned, but he was still here. It seemed he was at the important threshold of the new realm. The Vanish Mind smoke would become stronger with time. At that moment, Shi Yan would hardly press down his desire, and he would do evil things that his mind always prevented him from doing in regular situations. What made the two women frightened was also poison, but not the Vanish Mind smoke. However, it was also a deadly one when it confined their powers. At this moment, they weren't different from normal people. Even if they ran away, they couldn't run far enough. The ghost hunter, the devouring gold silkworm, and the king of demonic insects, the three intimidating evil creatures, were guarding Shi Yan. Even if they wanted to tie him, they had no way. So now they could only worry about themselves but have no solution. Retribution. The beautiful eyes of Han Shui reflected her mournful mood. She wanted to cry. Stunned and begrudging, she sighed. Lung Danqing was the same. She was uneasy, but couldn't find a solution. She could only look at Shi Yan with her stomach in knots. Sure, Yen didn't recognize the two flurried, ample-built women as he was still sinking in the death-intent domain to comprehend the true meaning of death. After Ning Qishan died, his essence Qi had absorbed into Shi Yan's body. While he still perceived the power of death, the mysterious martial spirit in his body had soon been working, magically filtering the negative energies constantly arising from the bottom of his heart, which affected his mind. The Vanish Mind smoke had stirred up the desire deep down in his heart. This sort of attraction that came from the soul could make anyone crazy. Moreover, when it contacted the negative feelings, it was like thunder meeting the flame of the earth. Once it started, it was hard to stop. Gradually, Shi Yan's pupils became as hot as fire. He started to pant. Han Shui and Lung Danqing became more frightened. They instinctively avoided the young man, retreating deeper into the forest to lengthen the distance with Shi Yan. They hoped that at the moment Shi Yan woke up from his realm comprehension, if he didn't see them, he would spare them. Han Shui and Lung Danqing all knew that when an ice jade technique practitioner lost her purity, breaking through to the peak of this technique was harder than finding the way to heaven. As they understood the nature of the ice jade technique well, although these two beautiful women weren't young anymore, they still stayed virgin. They had never experienced intimacy before. The provocation they had made was just a show-off. When the real thing came, they felt scared. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu hadn't arrived yet, as they were still chasing after Yu Liming. They wouldn't come back shortly. This made the two attractive women more flurried. They'd used all the strength left in them to hide in the thick forest. Time flew in this sort of a bizarre atmosphere. Shi Yan was immersed in the center of the death-intent domain, and he had spent a long time there. Later on, he seemed to recognize something when his majestic body suddenly shivered, as a radiant divine light bloomed out from his eyes. A warm water current flowed, rippling in his entire body from his sea of consciousness. The profound Qi halo in his abdomen was urged to thrive. The ancient profound Qi in there had another growth. Third Sky of Sky Realm. When the realm was broken through, the most direct marker was the enlargement of the ancient profound qi tree, which helped him store more qi. This pushed his power progression to a larger scale. The ancient profound qi tree changed, which meant he had made another step into the new realm, the third sky of Sky Realm, the most strenuous and mysterious of the Sky Realm. At the moment his body was changed, and his sea of consciousness was shaken many times. Flows of soul consciousness were formed one after another. The essence qi of earth and firmament was like it was dragged massively into his body, entering his sea of consciousness to help it refine and condense. His sea of consciousness expanded a little more. Each strand of soul consciousness became pure, as a brilliance sparkled in his sea of consciousness, releasing some kind of divine light, entering people's mind. His host soul in the sea of consciousness was tangled with the strands of pure soul consciousness, receiving the energy from them. The shortcomings of the host soul were healed, while the power of the host soul gradually increased. Overall growth. At the moment when a warrior entered a new realm, his body, sea of consciousness, and host soul would be all enhanced. Even his martial spirit could break through too. A new world came with new chances for new abilities. This was what attracted countless warriors on their cultivating path. Shi Yan's eyes shimmered while sensing the changes of his body. Gradually, the negative desires affected him. From deep down at the bottom of his heart, an urging voice was calling him, asking him to release his desires. The negative desires broke his rationality easily. Vanished mind, smoke piled up with the negative feelings, created the desires at their frightening acme that he, a man with a firm will, couldn't oppress at all and fell into them. His eyes were like they were sparking fire. His soul consciousness was released strand by strand, and soon he found Han Shui and Lung Danqing. Without any hesitation, he turned into a bunch of lightning, gliding through the big ancient trees in the forest. Immediately, he found Han Shui and Lung Danqing. Naked desire twinkled in his eyes as his gaze made the two women shiver in fear with their minds trembling. Han Shui couldn't hold her scream. She was constantly retreating with distress on her face. The soft, plump body of Lung Danqing was shaking as well. She felt Shi Yan's eyes were piercing through her as if she was standing there naked in front of him. This feeling made her soul restless. Under Shi Yan's gaze, her heart was overwhelmed with fear. Once she lost her virginity, it would be really tough to break through her ice jade technique again. The hope to enter the true God realm would be out of reach. The dream she had been chasing strenuously for her whole life was related to the purity of her body. If Shi Yan took her this time, she would never have the chance to surpass Bing Qing Tong, and she could only be one of the elders of the Ice Emperor. Although she kept the company with Han Shui, she had her own calculation. The city master position, she also wanted it. Roar! Shi Yan roared like a beast, storming forward and snatching Lung Danqing's body. Swash, swash! The tearing sound of brocade clothing arose. Shi Yan had ripped Lung Danqing's dress off. She was helpless. After only 5 seconds, she turned into a naked beauty, revealing her jade-white, porcelain-like, charming body that could dazzle people. The ample, milky bosom, the straight, slender thighs. Her breasts were full and large, that he couldn't hold with one hand. Deadly attraction flickered from these treasures that could drive any man crazy instantly. One hand of her was covering her left breast, while the other hand was hiding her fragranced grassland. Her face was depressed, innocent and lovely at the same time. She backed off constantly. Standing in front of her was Shi Yan, who had lost his mind. What happened next? One didn't need to guess. Shi Yan stormed over like a wild beast, backing her against an ancient tree. He didn't respect her at all, claiming her right breast, which was exposed. Shi Yan grabbed the little red dot eagerly, while his other hand caressed her arrogant rear end. Han Shui blushed and screamed ear-splittingly to wake Shi up. Unfortunately, Shi was no different from a wild beast at this moment. He ignored her frightened scream, continuing his dark deed on Lung Danqing's creamy body. Right in front of Han Shui, Shi clothes exploded like leaves, scattering around his uniting lofty body and Lung Danqing's porcelain-like body. The carefree pleasure scream and the mournful cry sounded at the same time in the forest. Bang! An evil power detached from the black iron puppet war devil. Dark light columns as big as an arm were storming like crazy snakes from hell. Li Ming got hit in the air, spurting out blood. A bunch of icicles appeared around Li Ming, stabbing him directly. As Li Ming got hit by the war devil, blood sprayed out from his body like a shower. Then the icicle stabbed him. Even though his body was wounded severely, Li Ming didn't dare to stop, shouting with a ferocious face, "You two bitches, I will make you wish that you'd rather die than staying alive." Purple and green mist exuded. Some kinds of nemesis energies bustled inside Li Ming's body and then exploded, rippling out in the mist. Blood splashed everywhere as Li Ming disappeared into thin air. Even his aura vanished. The war devil paused for a while, then strode toward Shi general direction. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu were worried. They sensed in the direction Li Ming disappeared, but they understood well that with their cultivation base, they couldn't find him. As they had no other choice, they could only get back to the forest, flying together with the war devil towards Shi location. They hadn't even come near them yet when a series of embarrassing, tender sounds reddened them. This kind of sound made them feel itchy and uncomfortable inside. Bing Qing Tong was shocked, looking unknowingly at that direction. She frowned, flying towards it. Shuang Yu Zhu followed her, flying towards the source of the noise. When they arrived, the two cold, arrogant, beautiful women blushed, standing stunned at their spot. In the forest, a live, vulgar play was showing vehemently with only one audience, who was constantly screaming. Chapter 514. 1 to Resist 3. Chapter 514. 1 to Resist 3. A naked young man was thrusting his member passionately into a snow-white, mature body. Standing near them was another beautiful woman. Her face was filled with fear as it was blushing. The woman was constantly screaming. After Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yuzhu arrived, they were stunned at first glance. "Second sister, what's going on?" Bing Qing Tong was terrified. She wanted to separate the couple while her soul numbed and her tender body shivered. "Don't!" Han Shui shouted. The ghost hunter, the king of demonic insects, the devouring gold silkworm stayed near. The three flows of evil aura concentrated on Bing Qing Tong all of a sudden. Even the war devil had exuded his sinister aura as he was guarding his master. Why? Why did it happen like this? Why? Shuang Yuzhu was shocked, shaking her head again and again. Her face blushed. She didn't know what to do. He got affected by the Vanish Mind smoke. "The poison has burst out," Han Shui explained. "These demonic beasts don't allow anyone to come near him. Don't act rashly. Wait until he releases himself. He'll wake up. Everything's fine then. No matter what, don't move." Bei Si's and Shuang Yuzhu's bright eyes flickered uncertainly at this moment. Even their necks reddened as they didn't know what to do now. "Big sister, second sister, help me." Lung Danqing panted while her creamy body glowed beautifully. "Sister, we don't have any plan." Han Shui retracted her neck, looking at the king of demonic insects and the ghost hunter with great panic. Her tender body shivered, and her eyes glinted, not daring to look at her younger sister. As Lung Danqing listened to her, she fell into despair. Her body was trembling harder. Big sister, fourth sister, you too. Seems like you too got the vanish mind smoke too? Han Shui was bewildered. She seemed to recall something as she paled and shouted. Right after that, Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu discolored. Seemed like the woman's words had stirred up something in them. Bing Qing Tong and Shuang Yu Zhu turned differently, watching the hot scene in front of their eyes. The two women couldn't help but feel hot, as if numerous worms were tickling their bodies, making them feel so strange. Shuang Yu Zhu couldn't help but press her thighs together. Her body swayed, quickly turning reddish. Go, go! It seemed a voice was calling her, urging her to walk toward Shi Yan to join that disgusting scene. Shi Yan's lofty body was naked. At this moment, in Bing Qing Tong's and Shuang Yu Zhu's eyes, he somehow got some sort of divine halo covering him. Each muscle of his was so attractive that could make every woman worship him. Big sister, fourth sister, you guys, Han Shui was surprised. Can you control it? Sister, do you have any solution? Bing Qing Tong felt so hot inside that she couldn't press it down. Her breath was warm, but she couldn't restrain the unknown desire in the bottom of her heart. Han Shui was also terrified, shaking her head. I don't know. I really don't know. This poison seems to aim at the feelings inside. Normal antidote won't work. I have no solution. Han Shui couldn't even cry, although she regretted it the most. She had never expected things to accelerate to this point. So hot. Shuang Yuzhu whined like she was dreaming. Her clear, cold pupils gradually dulled. A moment later, sexual passion appeared on her face. She seemed to be urged by an unknown force, walking toward Shi Yan. She started to take off her clothes. A slim body that gave people a sense of perfection slowly revealed in the forest. Fourth sister, Bing Qing Tong screamed. It seemed that Shuang Yuzhu didn't hear her, walking forward step by step, just like she was under a spell. Then she hugged Shi Yan from behind, using her beautiful bosom to caress his back. She appeared to receive great pleasure from that. Her moaning made people's hearts speed up. As Bing Qing Tong was watching her, she felt so hot inside that she couldn't restrain it. Even her iced jade technique couldn't solve this desire. She felt annoyingly itchy. Big sister, what are you doing? Amidst the ear-splitting scream of Han Shui, Bing Qing Tong acted like she was dream-walking, slowly strolling forward while taking off each piece of her clothing. Her extremely beautiful body exposed in the forest. Han Shui bewilderedly watched her sister join Shuang Yuzhu, like the group of Naganis tangling him. Long after that, Han Shui had her legs softened, sitting on the ground as if she had lost her soul, looking ahead of her. Under a big ancient tree, one naked man and 3 women were entangled, as a strange aroma exuded from them. Well, Shi Yan suddenly sighed. His eyelashes convulsed as he detached himself from the jade-like thighs and snow-white arms, looking around dully then stuttering. Ah! He cried out in panic, jumping out of the embrace of the 3 hot bodies that could bleed any man's nose. Shi Yan stammered. What happened? His body trembled. He looked at Han Shui and asked with a low tone, What have you done to me? Han Shui's stupefied eyes lit up as she gradually got herself together. She was shocked for a while before she could speak up again. What did you say? Did you seize the chance when I was comprehending the truth of the power to take over my body? Shi Yan's face darkened. He slightly turned his head to throw a glance at Bing Qing Tong, Lung Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu, who were still together. His eyes lingered on the bodies of the 3 magnificent women, but his voice was so serious like he had never used before. Even if you had a wild scheme on me, you wouldn't need to do that. 3 at once. Didn't you think it was too much? I had just had a big fight. How could I endure that? So excessive. I know you guys are unhappy women, but you should at least control yourself, right? Then, Shi Yan snorted, rolling his eyes at Han Shui. Do you want to take action with me too? I'm warning you, I'm not an easy guy. I won't concern the case when I wasn't conscious, but now that I've wakened up, you can't do anything rash with me. Even if you want to do that, well, you have to wait for a while until I can restore my strength. Han Shui was petrified. If she could use her strength now, perhaps she would have risked everything to tear off Shi Yan's body. Too shameless. Obviously, he had had the extreme pleasure, but now he retorted just like he had to bear loss at an unhappy event. This kid was extremely shameless. Such a thick skin, much thicker than his own power. Well, did I say anything wrong? Shi Yan curled his lips. I'm still young. This time, I've fallen into the wolves' lair. You female wolves have tortured me. I have suffered a great loss. You're flagrant. Han Shui finally screamed, pointing at Shi Yan's face, and scolded. You're exaggerating. You dare say that to us? You be **starred. I'm going to kill you. Then Han Shui didn't mind her manners or elegant bearings, storming like a vixen towards him. Second sister. Right at this moment, Bing Qing Tong tenderly called her as she was getting up from the ancient tree, putting her clothes on quickly and combing her messy hair. She shook her head, signaling Han Shui to stop. She sighed as Han Shui halted, speaking sobbingly. Sister, this be **starred. This be **starred. Oh! Lung Danqing and Shuang Yu Zhu gradually woke up. As soon as they recognized the situation, they confusingly put their clothes on, then throwing Shi Yan a murderous look. If their looks could kill, Shi Yan should have been dismembered into 8 pieces. Why are you looking me like that? Shi Yan snorted. Apparently, he didn't want to admit his mistake. I was perceiving my new realm, and you took the chance when I was careless. The 3 of you joined hands and bullied me. You've exhausted me. Now you want to kill me to make me shut up? I'm telling you, although I'm not fully vigorous now, I'm not afraid of you. Don't you dare to dream about turning me into your gigolo? I have big dreams. I don't want to be worn out in this Ice Emperor City to death. I'm going to die with you. Lun Danqing shouted. A flow of cold air gushed out of her body as a 5-meter ice dragon soared up to the sky. **CK that. You do have viper's venom. You're turning your back to me after you've done with me. Shi Yan grinned oddly, taking a step back. The earth flame flew out from the blood vein ring. The 5-meter ice dragon bumped into the earth flame, immediately turning into a sparkling drop of water, falling into the forest. You're shameless, indeed. The ice-cold flame sent him a message. I have no choice. As things have come to this, I can only be shameless to not be more embarrassed. At least they won't have their hearts broken. Putting resentment on me, it could help reduce their pain and sorrow. I have good intention, and whether they appreciate it or not, I can't control it. They will hate you for the rest of their lives. It's okay. I'll leave soon. We won't have a chance to meet up again. Let them hate me. Third sister, stop! Bing Qing Tong shouted. Lang Danqing's face was gloomy, looking at Shi Yan. You deserve 10,000 death sentences. It's you forced and raped me. I will never train my ice jade technique to the peak. I want to kill you. Third sister, check your ice jade technique to see if it has any changes. Bing Qing Tong glared at Shi Yan furiously, then shouted, Can you be a little bit upright? Do not provoke them furthermore. You've taken it all. What else do you want? Although Bing Qing Tong's tone was filled with grudges, her manners toward Shi Yan had more traits of humans, not as cold as ice like before. Under the scrutinizing look, Shi Yan was somewhat afraid, as he suddenly had a feeling that this woman could see through him. Eventually, he nodded embarrassingly and didn't continue his crazy talk. "Oh, hey, my ice jade technique. It seems, Lung Danqing sensed her body for a while, her eyes strange. Bing Qing Tong was shaken. She turned to Xuan Yuzhu and told her, "Fourth sister, you should sense and see if your ice jade technique has some changes too." Xuan Yuzhu gritted her teeth, throwing a furious look at Shi Yan, then sensed her body. After a while, her tender body trembled as she cried, "My ice jade technique, it didn't step backward, but it seems to have broken through one more level." "Ah, me too," cried Lung Danqing. "Indeed," Bing Qing Tong screamed with her low tone. Her eyes twinkled, gazing at Shi Yan. "We have the same changes. Our ice jade technique has progressed." Chapter 515. I was also virgin. Chapter 515. I was also virgin. Lung Danqing and Xuan Yuzhu were shocked in the middle of their thunder fury. Han Shui wore a surprised face, looking at Shi Yan, who was pretty calm now, with doubt filled in her heart. "What are you guys talking about?" "Han Shui, their ice jade technique wasn't sluggish, but has advanced somehow." The beautiful eyes of Bing Qing Tong sparkled with a strange light as she blushed. "After this incident, we don't know why our technique wasn't held back, but it has a good progress now." "Ah." Han Shui covered her mouth and couldn't help but exclaim tenderly, her face disbelieving. Shi Yan beamed a faint smile, retreating the earth flame, the devouring gold silk, and the king of demonic insects into the blood vein ring. While killing Ning Qishan, Shi Yan had sunk into his death-intent domain and wasn't aware of the surrounding situation. At the same time, his mysterious martial spirit had filtered Ning Qishan's essence qi into the strange energy necessary for warriors. After he had been skin to skin with Lung Danqing, Xuan Yuzhu, and Bing Qing Tong, that strange energy quietly poured into the three women's bodies respectively. The mysterious power was really magical, as it could push the potential of a warrior's martial spirit and enhance the profound qi. Seemed like it had good effects on Lung Danqing and the other two, making their ice jade technique advance somehow. This also surprised him. Shi Yan discreetly sensed, and his face cheered up. Ning Qishan was a spirit realm warrior. After his profound qi had been filtered into the mysterious energy and poured into the three women, still, what was left was enough to supplement the part he had consumed. Moreover, it made his profound qi ancient tree enhanced. He gained big in this battle indeed, breaking through to the third sky of Sky Realm, augmenting the amount of energy he had consumed and filling the profound qi ancient tree, all thanks to the mysterious martial spirit. At this moment, he truly felt the magical chance that he had gotten with the mystical martial spirit at the Blood Pond before entering the Grace mainland. "Big sister, are you saying that after you guys have been with this kid, you all gain some benefits?" Han Shui blushed, asking with uncertainty. "It is." Bing Qing Tong was embarrassed, answered her sister with a frowning face as she was bashful. "Why could it be?" "I don't know. I think you should ask him." Bing Qing Tong looked at Shi Yan, her eyes flickering. After that awkward event, she found herself hard to keep cold when facing Shi Yan. To a woman, her pure body could be considered the essential key to her life. Bing Qing Tong had been saving herself, and she had never done anything flirty in front of any men. She had always appeared as an ice-cold woman. This time, it was unexpected that Shi Yan had claimed her body. Such an incident that made her flurried. She didn't know what to do next. Is it what our adoptive mother reminded us that year wasn't true, perhaps? Han Shui couldn't imagine it, shook her head, and then sobbed. She told us many times that when cultivating the ice jade technique, we have to keep our body pure. Once we lost our virginity, we would never enter the higher realm. Don't tell me that she lied to us? Why can you guys leap up after you've lost it? The girly soul in Han Shui thought, perhaps it's quite contrary that defloration could help cultivate the ice jade technique to the peak. Is this ice jade technique a dual cultivating method? Otherwise, why their cultivation base could be enhanced after that. Of course, our mother wouldn't lie us. Bing Ching Tong rolled her eyes at the woman. Han Shui, don't think of nonsense things. This change isn't normal. I could feel a strange energy pouring into us from Shuryen. That strange energy absorbed into our body and strengthened our ice jade technique. If it were another man, this situation would absolutely never happen. Don't act rashly. She understood Han Shui well. To peak her realm, she could do anything at any cost. If Han Shui thought that defloration could increase her realm, with her nature, she wouldn't hesitate but find a man to do that and improve her ice jade technique. Only him, then. Han Shui muttered. Her beautiful eyes lit up, looking at Shuryen with deeper meaning. Her succulent red lips parted, and her face was so charming it could draw people's souls. Shuryen was surprised, his face awkward. Lung Danqing and Xuanyu, Zhu had their eyes flickered. Their faces were gloomy as they were uncertain. No one knew what they were thinking at this moment, since they kept silent. Bing Ching Tong rubbed her ear as if she was considering how to treat Shuryen. None of us had thought about this incident beforehand. And, in fact, you guys haven't suffered from a big loss. I was also a virgin. Moreover, I'm still so young. Frankly speaking, you are all cougars. Shuryen's face was tense as he was explaining himself seriously. Anyway, I'm a man. It wouldn't be a big deal if I lost my virginity. We should let it go and consider that nothing has ever happened. How about that? Be ****. Lung Danqing blushed, cursing and rolling her eyes at him. You were virgin my ass. Your moves were so experienced. Only ghosts by what you said. Han Shui clenched her teeth, feeling funny and annoyed at the same time. I witnessed that. Do you think we're easy to be fooled? If you didn't have experience, how could you know many things like that? With her words, Han Shui turned bashful, turning her head around to not look at the man. Cough, cough. Shuryen felt ashamed when his lie was exposed. He didn't continue wearing his serious face, but a more natural look. It has happened. What do you want now? I'm willing to bear the loss. You give me 2 drops of the cold chalcedony, and I will create an ice chamber for you to make up the loss. How does it sound? We should get back to the city. That freak old man's wounded badly, so he won't find us shortly. After we get back to the city, we will talk about this. Bing Ching Tong looked at him and talked gently. They had Shuryen and the war devil here, so even if Yuli Ming were stupid enough to come after them, he would never gain the upper hand. After they got to know Shuryen's competence, they suddenly felt at ease and their minds quieted down. This man was still young and his realm wasn't low. He was mysterious indeed. If they could keep him forever in the Ice Emperor City, it would turn bad to good. Yeah, they had to think about the way to tie him here. Bing Ching Tong contemplated while her eyes sparkled, as she was thinking about the good solutions. Big sister, we still have poison in our sea of consciousness. Han Shui's face was filled with bitterness. That monster said that if we can't have the antidote within 7 days, our sea of consciousness will disperse and our host soul will vanish. Lung Danqing suddenly remembered the strange thing in her sea of consciousness, and her face paled. The joy brought to her from the advancement of her ice jade technique faded away in just a blink. Yes, what if her ice jade technique was enhanced and she still had the poison in her sea of consciousness? She couldn't even urge a bit of her power. After 7 days, her sea of consciousness would dissolve and her life would come to an end. What was to be joyful about? Bing Ching Tong sighed, speaking up begrudgingly. We'll get back to the Ice Emperor City first. Then we'll see if we can find a solution. Sai, if we can't do anything, we will visit the Ning family to see if they have any solutions. Even if the Ning family has the antidote, they won't give it to us. Lung Danqing's face was cold, her eyes as frosty as ice. The Nings are shameless. If Ning Luohan didn't arrange this, we wouldn't have met that freak old man. I hate that I can't kill the entire Ning family. We can't count on the Ning family, Han Chui sighed as she knew that solution wasn't practical. Don't get so low. Get back to the Ice Emperor City first. We'll find another way for the antidote, Shi Yan urged impatiently. Bing Qing Tong nodded, hesitated for a moment, and then said, Bing Chong and the others should be in the Banner family now. The Banners are a strong force. We can ease our mind if they stay there. So now, we should go back and negotiate things later. After making the decision, Bing Qing Tong and Shuangyu Zhu took Han Chui and Lung Danqing, flying together with Shi Yan and following the old track. The Miasma Cloud wetland. Inside a swamp where dark mist and cloud hovered, a naked middle-aged sturdy man was sitting cross-legged on the water surface. He was breathing the miasma there. On his naked body, several hundreds of toxic insects, scorpion, spiders, snakes, and centipedes were crawling and biting him. These small insects were moving, crying mournfully. A colorful halo expanded, like rainbows blooming out from him. His eyes were amazingly beautiful. A short while later, the venom in his body was sucked off by the toxic insects. They then detached from his body. Whenever an insect finished its job, the 7-colored halo on his body got brighter. Swoosh! A body covered with blood appeared next to the swamp. That silhouette gushed out blood from his mouth, then coughed badly. The vigorous man in the swamp slowly opened his eyes, looking at that man with shock. Yuji, what's happened to you? Bedevilment? Blood trickled down from the corner of Yu Li-ming's mouth. His face was ashen as he spoke up with gloomy, ferocious tone. I got attacked. Ning Qishan was killed. The opponent was a young man whose cultivation base was only at the Sky Realm. But he has the devouring gold silkworm from your Ning family. He also has a black iron puppet, very scary, Yu Li-ming explained briefly. The sturdy man listened to him, as his face gradually darkened. 7-colored rainbow light flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, numerous poisonous insects on his body fell off. However, they all exploded even before they even reached the water. The 7-colored halo bloomed, covering the entire space. Yuji, can you endure another battle? The robust man strode out from the swamp. Many tattoos of evil, toxic beasts appeared on his skin, replacing the cover of the toxic insects. Along with his steps, those beasts looked extremely lively, giving people a feeling that they were ready to battle at any time. I can try, but I can't deal with that black iron puppet. I'll handle all of them. You just need to control the women of the Ice Emperor City. How about that? I think I can do that. Let's go. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.